that the long-expected September 22nd Osun State governorship election is here with us. For some people, it's a short time. For some, it's a long time. And this time we have a record-breaking total of 48 governorship candidates from 48 political parties fighting hard to take over the tenancy of Bola Ige House from its current occupant, who would have completed 8 years of his governorship. Voters are expected to perform their civic responsibility in 755 points, 3,010 polling units in the 30 local government areas of the state. Reports already reaching us now say that accreditation and voting are already going on simultaneously. Now, the Nigerian Television Authority, the largest television network on the continent of Africa, will be transmitting live both from Osogbo, where it's really happening, and Abuja, the electoral process, including studio analysis by our corps of political analysts and election observers. I am Femi Okewo here in Abuja and will be joined by Funke Bidamiton in our Osogbo studios, welcoming you heartily to Osogbo Decides. Thank you for being part of this program. Go straight to bringing in the guests that we have brought in to look at this very unique and the last election before the general elections in 2019. There is a face you are all used to by now, and that's because he must always be here. He is the Director, Voter Education of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzi. You're welcome to Osogbo Decides, or Osun Decides now. Thank you. And when I introduce this man, you would ask, what is he doing here? But he will tell you subsequently. He is the Commissioner of Police, Counter-Terrorism Unit Department of the operations of the headquarters of the Nigerian Police Force. And so, why I say that you may ask what a counter-terrorism expert is doing in an election, we'll get to know later. He is Mr. Asukwo Amba. You're welcome, Mr. Amba.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes.
And another person you would feel very comfortable having around here, he is the political analyst on the team, a professor of political science, Professor Rotimi Ajayi. Welcome to Osun Decides.
Thank you.
Let's have your quick thoughts as we go into this discussion. I'll start with you, Professor Ajayi. Do you have the history of Osun? Again, there are Nigerians who will ask why Osun is breaking out of the general elections, why we're having the governorship of Osun at this time.
Thank you very much. If we go back to history, particularly the conduct of governorship elections in Nigeria, it will be easy and fast for us to know why we are here today. You recall the advent of this republic and the emergence of some political parties at that time, notably the AD, the PDP, and all others. And we recall that 8 years ago, there was a tussle on who actually won that election. And that brought in the incumbent after the court decided against the winner, quote unquote, of that election. At that time. Yes. So here we are, having completed 8 years outside the normal schedule of elections in Nigeria. That is why we are here today. Just as it happened in Ekiti, it happened in Edo State, it's also happening today in Osun State. So that is why we are here. And I believe that let's see what happens in the next 24 hours. And,
as a political scientist, someone who has observed the trend of elections, is this healthy for Nigeria? The break, the fact that we have states that are not in the general elections as it concerns governorship, that is?
Well, we may not be able to run away from that completely if we are to adhere strictly to the rule of law. Do not forget that the Constitution also makes available the right of candidate to seek redress, if they were not satisfied with the outcome of any election. And since the court decided otherwise and removed Olagunsoye as at that time, here we are today with the Aregbesola administration ending. So it's a healthy development. It's part and parcel of the democratic process. The strict adherence to the laws and regulations guiding the conduct of any election. But we believe that all the stakeholders will be able to get it right so that we won't have to find ourselves in this type of situation.
Okay. Mr. Amba, the Department of Operations of the Force Headquarters is neck deep in the process of elections. But talking seriously, people would say, why is there any fear of terrorism in this election?
Well, I think for now I'm representing the Nigerian police force and not the unit of terrorism.
Okay.
But anti-terrorism is one of the specialized units we have co-opted to ensure that we provide a robust security arrangement that will make the environment secure and would give room for a peaceful and credible election in Osun State.
Now let's look at your men on the ground. The police, even though called the force, is also it's very civil organization. What are the trainings that you have impacted on your men? We are beginning to get used to this, but it's also dangerous to think that we already know it. So for every election, it comes with its uniqueness.
Well, I think the beauty of the police assignment is that we have before the election, during the election, and after the election. So these are, let's assume we have 100% of it. We've already done 30% of it, which was prior to the election, and that involved positioning our men before the day. And today we are going to do 40%, and after the election, 30%. The men, if you notice, we've gradually improved. If I'm not too modest, you can see that there's an improvement from every election because we have points to take home and we sit down and analyze. And we find out that voters' education, educating our men and officers, had really played a key role. And we have liaised with other key agencies that are well embedded in democratic principles, who had given our men lectures. My IGP, K. Idris, knowing that he had conducted some of this election in the United Nations Organization, has brought in his own wealth of experience for us to be where we are today.
Mr. Osazeuzi, INEC has no choice in this matter, that is, as to conduct election whenever it comes up. But you are the ones experiencing it. Is INEC, is this an advantage for our electoral process to have elections done piecemeal in states?
Thank you very much. First of all, as you said, there isn't really much of a choice in it. The Supreme Court took the decision, it took the courts have taken the decision that the tenure of a governor as stipulated in the Constitution is for 4 years, and it starts from the day that the holder of the office took the oath of office. So that's why we have 9 governorship elections that may be termed off-cycle. They're not along with the general elections. In Anambra, Southeast, this is there. In the South-South, you have Edo and Bayelsa. In North Central, you have Kogi. And in the West, you have 3 of them. You have Osun, Ekiti, and Ondo, arising out of those court decisions. So we don't have a choice. I think it has its own advantages, definitely, because don't forget, there are some people who say there should be staggered elections, similar to the pattern in the US. The advantage, one of the main advantages, is that you test your equipment, you test your processes, and you can experiment and pilot things that you may want to learn from, that you want to use in subsequent general elections, so that by the time the general elections come around, then those things have been tested and likely improvements have been made to the processes and to all the things that you do, even the improved planning and everything else. And I think it makes things a little bit more efficient so that there's no 4-year cycle. You, in between, have things that you test with, although there are still by-elections. So it may not be correct to say that this is the last election before the 2019 elections, the last governorship election. There's some vacancies that exist presently, and there will be by-elections before them, but not as extensive, not as much as the governorship election.
Now, Mr. Osazeuzi, one advantage we have always taken in having you in the studio is that we can always split you into two. We can always have you in the studio and also have you monitoring what's on the ground. So let's take advantage of that and go into today's election.
Okay.
What are your updates? What do you have on?
Thank you. Before coming on air, before coming to the studio, I had to pass through the situation room. The situation, that's why I can be in two places at the same time, because we have eyes and ears on the ground, and we have hundreds of monitors all across the 30 local government areas of Osun State, and they report back to headquarters, report back to Shogbo, and also back to the headquarters, where the chairman, some commissioners and directors are in the studio monitoring what's on ground, getting feedback, and the feedback so far has been quite good. There has not been any adverse reports so far. At the time I left the situation room about late commencement of poll. As early as 6:45 this morning, some stations were already set up. We not just oral reports. These are backed by photographs at each stage of the process. So throughout the night, we're monitoring the situation as we were in the restaurant area camps, where they camped overnight, as they were distributing and sorting out the ballot papers and other sensitive materials were there. And as they were moving, they had to give us photographs of movements from the rack centers to the polling units. And wow, by 7:30, the figures I had, almost all had already been set up, awaiting the 8 o'clock. And surprisingly, or maybe not so surprising, in some of the polling units, voters were also there, but the officials insisted on waiting till the scheduled time of 8 a.m. to commence. So I will get, within the next 30 minutes or so, I should get the percentage of polling units that opened precisely at 8 a.m.
Mr. Amba, an update from you too. You two also have to keep your ears on the ground there in Osun State. Well,
considering what we have really placed on ground, I don't expect anything far from what my colleague have just mentioned. Suffice to say that our men have been on the ground a week to this date. Every police officer knows specifically the polling unit such officer is going to cover. They've been there since, I'm definitely sure, 24 hours before then, they were at the polling unit. They are conversant with the polling unit. There is no issue of saying you are searching. And for the police, the voting started by 5 a.m. because we were on the ground.
As far as you are concerned,
yes.
you have to okay.
Thank you.
Professor Ajayi, looking at the Osun scenario, or Osun, what are the uniqueness? What are the things you expect Nigerians to... The interesting aspect of the Osun, one of them is that we have 48 political parties fielding governorship candidates. Look at that scenario and do a political analysis of such a thing.
Yeah, thank you. What is happening in Osun State is not surprising. If you correlate that with the indices of political participation, we are talking of a highly informed, let me use that word advisedly, entity, comparatively speaking. The expectations are high. If you notice the build-up to this election, what the INEC director has said and the Commissioner of Police will not be surprising to us. People are desirous to know what is going to happen in Osun in terms of the outcome, the processes. And I'm happy at least what is on ground thus far, is commendable on the part of everybody. We are not witnessing much of the violence, that always attends such elections in the past. And so I want to believe that when you talk about political participation, the level of political information, the political self, that is the man on the street, here you are talking of a different entity. The awareness, the education, the voters' education towards this election has been very high. And people have different interests, concerning this election. And a lot of things will depend on the outcome of this election. People's political career, how far can you hold public officers accountable for, their years in office, and so many others. Look at the political gladiators, at least the formidable ones, the prominent ones. They are all equal to the task. And so that is why we believe that, what is happening, is not really a surprise. That you have 48 political parties is healthy for the democratic process. Let's forget about the cost of managing the election.
Yes.
But we all know that of these 48, we know those who are the serious ones and the serious ones.
You have just touched on the area I want to talk about. Neutral, as one tries to be as a journalist and as an observer. Sometimes you look at a candidate and say, do you really think you're going to win? Is it not possible, and you also said it, that there are various interests. Is it not possible for these interests to be consolidated? An analyst like you is saying the serious ones. I mean, it just means that there are some that are just there on the ballot box. Can't we come to a stage in our political evolution where political interests are consolidated so as to be able to make a mark at election times?
Unfortunately, the political climate is different from every other that we know. In our given setting, people participate in politics for different reasons, just like in any other society. Unfortunately, like I said, our politics is not issue-based. You cannot point to any political party and bring out the ideological standpoint of such parties. And that is why in some societies, you may have 2, 3 political parties because they stand for different ideologies. They stand for different purposes in government. Unfortunately, like I say, in ours, you don't find such. And that is why people have different reasons for even forming these parties. And don't also forget that our constitution makes it so extremely, let me use that word, easy for people to form political parties once they have the means. And that is why we have not even seen the end of political parties yet. Many will still come up. So the idea of aggregating interest and coming together may not really be there. And I want to believe that when you have a situation where people are hardly contented with the internal politics within their own political parties, you will never have an end to these splinter groups. Many of them are splinter groups of existing political parties. Many were formed, perhaps, let me use that word carefully again, by rival political parties in areas of strength of their perceived political opponents. Such that the calculations is such that, if you are able to split the votes in some of these areas, you have a headway. And that is why I said the reasons for forming these parties in our given system, are quite different from what you have in established democracies where you have 3, 2, or 4 dominant political parties based on ideological principles. In our case, it is not. Economic matters, personal reasons, primordial interests, all form the basis of our own political parties. And that's why we never have an end to splinter groups existing as parties.
INEC, when we had 5 political parties, some ballots were always disregarded or condemned for not conforming. They were not valid. They were not counted as valid votes. Just 5 political parties. Now, in this case, you're going to have 48. And don't be surprised if next year you have 91 on the ballot box. That makes it a little tighter for you in your design of the ballot box so that it doesn't spill over from one column to the other. Please, we spoke to Mr. Olusegun Agbaje, and he told us there are 3 columns of all divided into 48. Give us how this will play out, and to be able to have enough space for your thumbprint.
Thank you. You're quite right in your analysis. We've had issues with wrong marking of the ballot paper in the past, even with fewer numbers of political parties. We've done a lot more in terms of voter education in this regard, and we have made the ballot paper larger for obvious reasons, because with 48, and there are different ways you can approach this. The way we've chosen to approach it, and we've enlightened the stakeholders, especially political parties, about this, is that, look, there will be a grid system. What we mean by grid is that there'll be 16 here, first column,
Yes.
next column, another 16, and the third column. So altogether, there are 48 in this particular. If there are going to be 91 parties, then we'll divide them accordingly, rather than what
We
some
don't
people
have
term the snake.
sample.
I
Yes.
do have a sample. I don't know that your cameras can pick this up. Maybe if you zoom in, you'll see.
Okay.
This is a specimen of the ballot paper, which has been used to enlighten the electorate in Ekiti State. We've given this to political parties. This is from the brochure of the stakeholders meeting that we had on Monday of this week with the political parties. Perhaps the camera want to zoom in so you can see better about how the thing looks. It looks like.
Let's have a tighter shot of it, please.
So this is how they've been enlightened. The ballot papers are now larger than they used to be for obvious reasons, and the ballot boxes in
the ballot paper itself.
In our attempts at in getting to the one of the reasons why our budget is larger than what it is for the 2019 is that there are a lot more political parties than there were previously, and we need larger ballot boxes to occupy, because on average there are about 500, 600 voters in each polling unit. So we need larger ballot boxes to occupy this volume of I think it'll be about 60 liters rather than the 45-liter boxes we presently use. You need a larger volume of 60 liters to occupy more, and we may in future need even much larger ones where this is the case. But it's not unusual. In the Republic of Benin, in Niger Republic, taking our neighbors, they have more political parties than we do. Okay. In the US, people always think of two political parties, but as you rightly said, there are two dominant political parties, but there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of political parties, just like in the UK and in most other democracies, actually.
Okay. Now, we again during the Ekiti, Anambra, we keep seeing less and less complaints of logistics, election after election, and that is kudos to INEC. I want to ask you, one of the devices that you're using to make logistics distribution better, the tracking system. What are you tracking in this whole system?
Good question. We're tracking the movement and distribution, movement of personnel and materials, and distribution of especially sensitive materials. Non-sensitive materials are okay. They're not controversial. They cannot be used in rigging elections. If I send a poster, for example, anybody can have access to that. And in fact, some of the things we want to get as extensive as possible. Writing materials are non-sensitive. But result sheets are quite sensitive in Nigeria. By the way, it's almost a Nigerian distinction, because in other climes, including neighboring African countries, election materials are even taken home by the presiding officers and brought back the next day. But we know, and the security agencies led by the police will tell you a lot more about the risk of doing that in Nigeria. So basically, we track the movements, such movements. So yesterday, while we were moving to Central Bank, each vehicle moving materials was tracked. We're in the situation room and watching as they were moving. If the vehicle stops, we ask why. It should not have stopped. If the engine is on, it tells us. If the doors are open, it tells us. So basically, it's the increased use of technology to improve our processes. And don't forget that these things are going to go to local government offices, and from there to the camps overnight. So basically, that's the essence of tracking all these things, so that they don't go awry, we don't go hidden. In the past, we've heard of it being sequestered somewhere or taken into the bush and people some printing. That cannot happen these days, because everything is monitored, and we're not just waiting for our people to pick up phones and report to us, not the officials, but also this technologically, we can even listen to the conversations if they're going to do anything onto us inside the vehicles as they move from point A to their final destination. But it's all part of this improvements that we've been talking about. That at each time, I think Commissioner of Police made reference to that regarding security, but also with the process itself. The camps were not there 10 years ago. I think they were established shortly afterwards. When we saw that, look, going from the local government's headquarters of INEC, where the materials are stored, to the polling units can take time. In some states, some areas, it can take as long as 2-3 hours. So we said, let us get closer to the electorate, to the people. So you diffuse the distribution of materials and you stagger it so that it gets closer and closer and closer. So on the eve of the election, it is within, in some cases, walking distance from the camps. So you just walk, and some camps are actually registration points. So that's it's a deliberate effort to try to address that issue of late arrival and logistic challenges.
Mr. Amba, one other improvement, which this time relates to the police, is that I'm sure you were around in the 70s when people used to say that police were bought over. Not at the higher level, but at the polling stations where they are giving food and all that. That allegation has fizzled out. Nobody talks about police being bought over. Possibly that goes to talk about the welfare of the police. That is not a security issue for us to say don't talk about it. Let's the people know what you're doing to take care of your men, officers, and officers too.
First, I can tell you there's been tremendous improvement since the Inspector General of Police came into play. Effectively, definitely you have to take care of the welfare of the men, and that is what IGP Idris is doing. Every policeman that partakes in this very election had his allowances paid. Not fiscally, it dropped into his own account at least 3 to 4 days before the election. Transportation is provided, and there are chains where you can't lay any complaint. Maybe if there is some of them, maybe there is a mistake in the account number. But I can tell you that welfare-wise, the men are quite satisfied, and I can assure you that they will do their job professionally. They don't need to be enticed.
One area that certainly would be difficult for any organization to take care of is, in view of the number of people you're deploying, accommodation is a major issue.
Well, for the policeman, there is nothing called comfort. So that is why Nigerians must appreciate the duty of a policeman, because like I told you, we have started the dance right in Osogbo a week before date. They had been there. Like my colleague said, every ballot material, there is a policeman attached to it. And we equally have a tracking system where the DIG monitors from the joint control room. So I think we're going to have one of the best elections so far, because we've been progressing gradually to attain this very stage we are.
When people tell you Osun is peaceful, yes, that's a comfort. But when you have a crowd of contestants, are you likely to have the peace that you've always had in a place like that, because of the number of contestants? Is the peace of Osun likely to be tampered with in view of the diversity of interests?
Well, I don't think so. And I want to give it to INEC and the security agencies for what they have done thus far. The reports, at least we are getting, shows that everywhere is peaceful. And like I said, we've not had the type of skirmishes that we experienced in other elections. Having said that, let me also note that when we have complaints about elections, it's not usually with regards to the deployment of these election materials from the headquarters down to the states or the local governments. You see, the issue of violence in election takes place on the field. Okay. And where parties are dominant, you see, you are likely going to have the suppression of opposition. And that is what we have witnessed even on the field. So it's left for the security agencies to note that is it, when we talk about problems with election, it's about the voting units where the real action is taking place. It's not about the movement of the materials. Yes, good as it is, let there be proper focus on where this election is taking place, so that nobody disrupts the process. And where you think you are not having your way, you either try to hijack the ballot boxes, or you prevent others from exercising their fundamental human rights. This is a major problem that we have. And that has led to cancellation of results in some cases where people believe that they were not likely going to win. They would rather prefer the elections not to take place than allowing the people to do their jobs. So I believe that we are not likely going to see that with 28,000 policemen, on the field. It will be a slap on the police if we still witness any of such. Volatile as Osun or Oyo, had been in Nigerian politics, I think things are changing. People would rather want to speak with their voters card now than carrying arms and guns and cutlasses. I believe that we'll have a peaceful election.
Osun is a place where we've not had so much noise about where a contestant comes from. I think this is the first time in the political dispensation that Elisha is producing. The senatorial districts don't really seem to mind where your governorship comes from, the governor comes from. But we want to. We've had so much discussions in our studio here, and we want to move to where things are really happening. Hamisu Rogo is in Iragbiji, and he has an update for us.
Well, studio, a lot of interesting things are happening in Osun State. For example, I'm in Iragbiji now, and earlier on I have been in Osogbo, and I had been in Ikirun, and in all the places we have been to, everything is going on smooth. Elections delivery was timely. Election officials were timely. Even voters were coming in time, and everything based on what we have been seeing from early morning to this time started early in the morning. There is so much enthusiasm, and there is no picture of chaos or confusion. Everything seems to be working like clockwork. I have never seen an election going so smooth like I'm seeing today. But there are so many other important personalities that we are coming across, like the EU ambassador to Nigeria and ECOWAS, Ambassador Carlson, who is here with me. Ambassador Carlson, obviously, we have been moving together since morning.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. So what have you seen? What are your experiences?
I mean, what I have seen is very smooth and very orderly elections up to this point. I've seen 5 or 6 polling stations, and I really wish to commend INEC for the work that they have done up until this point. It seems that they have learned lessons from previous experiences in Ekiti, in Anambra, so it's a very wonderful start, I must say, on this election day. Now, the European Union, we are here with a team of 55 people, of which we have 28 observers from so many European countries, from Finland, from Sweden, from Denmark, from France, from Spain, from Germany, from the UK, and others. So this is cementing really the great interest that we have in seeing smooth, orderly, free, fair, credible, and above all, peaceful election in Osun.
Based on what you see today, can you say it is a beautiful indicator of what may come of the general elections of 2019?
I mean, that is what we hope. Election day has just started, so it's too early to make final judgments, but I must say a really convincing start today. So hopefully it will continue like that, and hopefully that will be an inspiration also for the general elections coming in 2019.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Carlson, for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, apart from Carlson, there is also the NTA of Abuja's team who are here. You know, that means they are coming from Osogbo to see observe the elections. Sir, you can come along, sir. Come along, sir. Yeah, obviously, sir. So what have you seen?
Well, so far so good. Yeah. Everything has been moving on fine, peaceful. So far, the areas we have visited, materials were delivered on time. The security men are available. Yes, they are unarmed. And the interesting thing is that the voters list is pasted at the vicinity of the station. So when a voter moves on, identifies his or her name, number, he gets to the voting point, he tells the presiding officer his or her name and the number, and then the voting commences.
So you are happy?
I am happy with what I've seen. The card readers are working. The accreditation is going on smoothly. The voting is going on well.
So we are getting it right.
For now, we can say so.
Well,
for
that
now.
is, yeah, obviously. Well, the conclusions across most of the observers that are coming, and believe me, they are eminent observers, is that everything is going on smooth now. It is early in the day, obviously it is early in the day. But what we are seeing today may be a harbinger of what will come in the afternoon. But a very quick bullet information about what is happening around town. Across all town, across all the cities we have been visiting, everything has not, the towns are empty. People are just coming to the polling station to vote. There is so much enthusiasm, there is so much will, and everything is going on peacefully. I think this much is enough, studio. You can take over from here.
Thank you, Hamisu. In Iragbiji, have you been able to move around town as to be able to know? Oh, okay, we'll take you again. We'll come back to you later. But we are pleased to have our first shots from. We're happy to have our first shots from Osun State, and so we come to guests. What are your observations from that just little exposition we have from Iragbiji, Mr. Osazeuzi?
Well, thank you. We have had a preview of what's on ground, and as I stated earlier, a lot of our monitors are across the whole state, and this report is similar to the kind of reports that we have been getting. We've gotten photographs, videos, and audio recordings of what has been happening on ground, and it's been so far so good, working in accordance with plan. And as we usually say, from the morning you see how the day is likely to be, and so far so good. We don't envisage any challenges. We
have information that Senator Deleke has already voted. What's that information like? And we just to put our reporters on the ground there on notice. I'm sure you have it, and very soon we'll be expecting it. But Mr. Osazeuzi, Senator Adeleke has voted?
Yes, a couple of the candidates have voted, and Senator Adeleke of the PDP, I understand, has voted from officials on ground. They have voted, just like so many others. Hundreds of people have already voted.
Okay, yeah. Now we'll return again to Oshogbo, where there are further updates. Things are beginning to happen fast, and you saw from that shot that the queues are very long and orderly and peaceful. But this time, let's join our studios in Oshogbo, where Funke Bidamiton will be giving us the things happening there, right there on ground. Funke, how were you? You are not able to vote, but enjoy your own contribution to the development of our nation's political evolution.
Very much, Femi. It's good to have you join us in the Osho Decide Studios, reaching you here live from Oshogbo, the Osun State capital. The race for Abere in Osun State has finally begun as 48 eligible candidates await the decision of over 1 million people of the state in anticipation of who occupies that exalted seat. I want to tell you that just as the discussions are going on in Abuja, election has started here in Osun State. Free, fair, accreditation and voting has begun in many of our centers across Osun State. A crop of reporters from across the 3 senatorial districts have been giving us reports of very free and fair elections, good turnout of the voters, and indeed, let's start very quickly by reaching out to some of them on the field. Hami Surugo just brought you the report from Iragbiji. We'll be joining Keneng Mabodike, who is also in the Osun Central Senatorial District, who will be telling us how it's been happening there. But that's after I have introduced my guests. We also have public analysts who are with us here in the studio this morning. We want to be together looking at how events are unfolding here in Osun State. Here with me is a professor of political science, Professor Bolaji Omitola, political scientist from the Osun State University. You're welcome to the studio. And I also have with me Citizen Lola Way. She simply wants to be called Citizen Lola Way. She's a public analyst. Let me quickly remind you here that Osun State is very gender sensitive. Of the 48 candidates, we have 4 who are women. And Citizen Lola Way will be telling us what this portends for us here in Osun State. But now we'll join Kene Emabodike, who will tell us how and what is happening at his end. Kene, can you give us an update?
We're reaching you from the Ataoja D polling unit here at the Osun Central Senatorial District, where, of course, voting actually started 8 o'clock this morning on the dot. And even as we speak, people are still exercising their franchise here, while some of them who came late are still over there trying to cross-check their names on the valid voters registration. As soon as they confirm their names there, they come in here and then become part of the queue. The queue is highly organized here, no problems at all. The security personnel have been making sure that nothing ugly happens here, and the voters themselves have been so respectful of the law and order that has been entrenched here. I can equally tell you that it's been quite peaceful here, and people are just doing exactly what they are meant to do here, knowing fully well that they are performing their civic responsibility. Let's quickly talk to the presiding officer here, Miss Adebukola Aziz. How are you today?
I'm fine, good morning.
Tell us exactly how it's been, what has been the experience so far?
It's been lovely. Everything is going on well here. Everywhere is peaceful. The accreditation is going on fine. The statistics and information started around 8. So after then, we proceed to accreditation. So people are casting their votes.
And so far, there has not been any skirmishes.
At first, we have an issue on our card reader, but within 5 minutes, the technician comes and they came and do the necessary things on it.
Are you satisfied with the conduct of the voters themselves? Are you satisfied with their conduct?
Yes, I'm satisfied. Everything is going on peacefully. Everything is going on fine.
All right. So, having started early, you are anticipating that this process here at Ataoja D will end when?
By 2, hopefully.
All right. We wish you guys good luck here.
Thank you.
That's Adebukola Aziz, presiding officer here at Ataoja D, Osun Central Senatorial District. Everything appears to be moving smoothly down. All things being equal, we don't expect any skirmishes at all. The voters, like I said earlier, are aware of their rights and the privileges here. All they need to do is to simply obey the laws, the rules and regulations of this polling unit, and then cast their vote as quietly as ever, and then find their ways out. Some of them will definitely love to stick around and see what will happen to their votes at the end of the day, because casting your vote is one thing and making it count is equally another thing. So it's really amazing to see that this is lovely and moving smoothly here at Ataoja D polling unit in Osun Central District of Osun State. That's the governorship election, and the people are indeed eager to see it through as peacefully as ever. Let's hand it back over to the studio right now.
Thank you so much, Keneng. It's so interesting to know that everything is smooth. Reports from both the south, the west, and the east to tell us that everything is moving on very smoothly. I think this is a very good development. Let me go to my guest here to ask very quickly, Professor Umitola, what do you say about Keneng's report?
Yeah, it's expected. We've been forecasting, people have been predicting that this election will be peaceful. From the antecedent of what we have seen so far during the election campaign and all that, everything has been peaceful. We've had a roadshow by various political parties. Even at the same time, there has not been any clashes. So everything has been going on as expected. So we don't expect anything to deviate from what we are seeing on the feed now. So for now, everything has been okay, and we thank God for that.
Citizen Lola Way. You heard that report also, and you also saw the visuals, you know, behind Kene Babudike. It's very interesting to know that I don't think there's what we can call voter apathy. People have trooped out en masse. What do you think is responsible for this?
I think the different political parties have done well in educating the people, and the different organizations have also done very well in educating the people, encouraging them to go out, telling them what their rights and privileges are. And then the presence of the security has not been intimidating. They've been conducting themselves very well in a very friendly way, which has encouraged and emboldened the people to come out and discharge their duties.
I'm happy you're talking about the presence of heavy security here in Osogbo. In fact, it's been rumored in some quarters that with this number of security operatives on ground, are you sure that we will not be intimidated? But you have said it's not affecting it. Can you tell us how the people are reacting to this here?
From my discussion with people on the streets, have gotten very good response. They are happy with the way the security men are conducting themselves around. They are being very, very friendly, very helpful. They are not intimidating the people in any way.
Just to add to that, is that we can see the way the security men are deployed, speak volume of what we are seeing today. Unlike what we experienced in 2014, where the security men are hooded, you know, we have a lot of dogs on the streets with them, and we have a lot of checkpoints. We are not witnessing the same thing now. The security men are going about their lawful duty. They are interacting with the people on the street. I've seen them even interacting with the people in a friendly way. And so this points to the fact that the people are not intimidated at all. They see the security men as doing their lawful duty to ensure that the election is free, fair, and credible.
Yes, Prof, as we expect our reports to be coming in from the field, I want us to quickly look at the history of elections in Osun State, just as you have heard Professor Rotimi Ajayi say in Abuja. Yeah. Do you have any contribution to this?
Yes, just like Prof said earlier, the cycle of gubernatorial election in Osun State is different from the norm. We expect Nigerians to go to vote in 2019, but this is not the case in Osun State. The reason for this is not far when we look at the fact that at the time there was an annulment of, there was a cancellation of the election that brought in the previous governor before Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, and that now led to the change in the date, because from 2014, the next election, from 2011 rather, the next election was 2014, then we're having another 2018. And this, unlike what some people will feel, this is also good for democracy, it's also good for our electoral system, because it will help the electoral body, the electoral management body, to be able to prepare and to test run some of their new innovations. For instance, we are having the Braille, the new, that will allow for more inclusiveness in our election system in Nigeria. And so this is being tested. I mean, we're having it in Osun. And if there are challenges here and there, they can improve, improve on it, so that by 2019, the system will be better. And so for me, having an off-season election like we're having now is good at the end of the day, because it helps us to prepare well and to know what will be happening in the general election.
And talking of some of the innovations that have just been brought in, that is kind of being tested in the Osun elections. Another new innovation is that of restriction to the use of phone in the polling units. You've been talking with the people on the streets. How do the people feel about this?
Some of them feel they are being deprived of their rights, that they should be allowed to take in their handsets while casting their votes. But my opinion is that it is right that they are not allowed to take in their handsets, because this will discourage vote buying. Mm-hmm. Because the essence of taking the handsets into the polling unit, it will snap after casting your vote. The parties that have paid want to be sure that you have actually voted for them. So you are required to take a picture of the of your
whoever you have chosen,
whosoever you have chosen, as an indication that you have delivered. And then this will help discourage vote buying when they know that there is not going to be any means of ascertaining that they have actually been able to buy the vote.
Okay, I've been told some of our reports are already coming in from Osun. Is that east or west now? Can we have the report now?
The conduct of people there is orderly, and the turnout is very increased. Perhaps this tell you about the communication here. People here understand what is expected of them. Now I have the presiding officer for this unit to speak to us. Madam, open your about the situation here. The election has been peaceful so far. People's cards have been voted, and the card reader has been noticed simple. There were very few issues like a member got his card transferred downward and the card reader wasn't able to read it. After trying for some time, we told him to
Let me apologize for that rather poor audio. We will be getting back to you, but now studio discussion continues. I spoke about women. We have 4 contesting in today's elections. Citizen Way, how do we feel as women? And what are the chances we have for these women?
Well, I think their chances are quite bright because, like I said earlier, I talked about improved voters' education. There's also a platform known as Alliance for Inclusion, which has been encouraging women not to just go out to vote and dance at political rallies, but to seek for elective offices. And you will see that it's been paying very well for us. We have a female presidential aspirant. And then in Osun State, Osun State is often referred to as the university state. Our level of education has also impacted on the activities of women. The women have been enlightened, and they are anxious to exercise their rights. And then we know that as mothers, we care about the well-being of the family. So having a woman govern the states will help the states to really make progress.
We know that women can govern the state, but what we are looking at is what are the chances of these women. But before that, report just reaching us says that the PDP governorship candidate, Senator Ademola Adeleke, has voted in his ward in Ede. Yes, you can see the visual there, Senator Ademola Adeleke of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, casting his vote at Ede. Now we continue. What are the chances? 48 and 4 women. And out of these 48 parties or those fielding candidates, the women have not been very obvious. Do you think women are actually ready and ripe for this position?
Speaking honestly, I will not say we are particularly ready. But it's an improvement that women were able to come out to seek for that high executive office.
And win the primaries.
Yes, win the primaries in their different political parties. We also have a woman running as a deputy in one of the 5 leading political parties. That is an indication that we have come a long way.
Okay. Yes, do you have any take on this?
Yeah. I want to agree with my colleague that women in Osun State have really come a long way. And if we look at the previous government before the APC-led government, a woman was a deputy governor. So it's not as if it's new in Osun State for women to be taking part in political activities. But what I want to add to what she has said is that in terms of civil society activism and all that, the women have been embodying, the women have been encouraged, the women have been sensitized for the need for them to come out to also take a shot at being at the helm of affairs as governor. But I want to say that what we have now is not really impressive. It's not impressive in the sense that we have just like say 4 candidates that are going on their own, and one among the leading, as we say, the leading 5 political parties. Though I won't want to say they are leading political parties. Or for me, we have 3 leading political parties in real sense of the word. But when we look at it, that political parties need to really liberalize. They need to make it accessible. They need to make things as easy for women to be candidates, especially the so-called leading political parties. They need to make, they are the gatekeepers, because it's a political party that determines who gets nominated and who fly their flag. So there's a need for more inclusiveness in terms of allowing women to be nominated and to be candidates. And when we look at it, that women, according to 2006, the last census in Nigeria, constitute more than half of the population of this country. So we know that, and just like this Sustainable Development Goal is saying, we cannot have real development when the women that consume more than half of the population are not part of the happiness. So there's a need for us to do a lot on that part, because we also have some features that women have that we say men don't have. Maybe we have more peaceful election, maybe we have more peaceful engagement in politics. And to that end, there's a need for us as a state and as a country able to look more at how to include women in governance.
Thank you very much, Professor. We will be breaking from the studios, going back to the field to know exactly what is happening in our various polling booths across the state. Larry Bele's report is ready. Can we have that?
What has been enforced by the INEC is that there will be no usage of mobile phones at your polling booths. The polling sheets must be folded in a particular manner before you can vote. And also, the pregnant women, the physically challenged, and the elderly are given special priorities. I'll go to the electoral officer. How do you do this? How do you give them special privileges?
They are given special privileges. Maybe if they are standing at the back, the pregnant woman, she will come to the front. The queue controller, which is the APO3, she will bring the pregnant woman to the front and she will cast her vote. While the elderly, she will also bring them to the front. She will tell the queue, the people at the queue, she will tell them that priorities are given to, there are 3 sets of people that priorities are given to: the physically challenged, the pregnant women, and the elderly. So if they are on the queue, they know that they should be given priority. So the queue controller will just bring them forward and they will cast their votes peacefully and they will leave.
And it has been happening?
Yes, it's been happening and there is no problem. And there has not been any problem, no problem.
Thank you very much. That's all we have for you for now. Back to the studios.
Thank you, Larry Bele. It's indeed very interesting to know that the physically challenged, pregnant women, the elderly have been given priority. What do you say to this, Prof?
Yeah, I'm very happy. I'm delighted. I'm happy to be in Nigeria because this is what obtains in most parts of the world where they know what they are doing. And I think we are getting it right because we know the so-called, disadvantaged groups are being taken care of now. They are not as strong as the men who can muscle their way even in the queue. But now we have the physically challenged, we have the women, the pregnant women, the elderly. And so this is the way to go. And I think we don't just stop it at Osun, or it will go around. Even 2019, we know that things are going to be better with the way we are going.
our own very citizen. How do you react to this?
In fact, I'm very, very glad. It's a very good development. And I want to commend INEC for this improvement in our voting pattern. And I, like my colleague said, I want it to continue.
Yes, we have said it before. Osun election is a litmus test to what we're expecting in just a few months' time at the general elections. Now let's move away a little bit from, what is happening on the field and come to PVCs. We know without the permanent voters card, no election for the people today. But in Osun State, we still have about as at the end of, last week, over 400,000 PVC cards were yet to be collected. 48 parties are fielding candidates. How do you think this will affect the over 1.6 million registered voters in Osun State?
Thank you. As of yesterday, the INEC resident commissioner was talking about 1.2 million. And that's about 74%, as he said. That's a considerable figure. I mean, it's a large figure, it's a large number. But we still have to work on the rest. There are a lot of factors that may account for non-collection of these PVC, permanent voters card, because people have already registered just to come. So there's an issue of logistics that the distribution still need to take care of. I was watching TV one day and I saw the way people are struggling even to get it. And so people will not come out until the last day. And they keep on asking for extension and extension. And another issue is that sometimes the people are not well oriented to where they are supposed to collect this PVC card. And that's why there's a disconnect between registration and collection. So there is a need, the civil society still need to do more. And they still need to do more of education, trying to enlighten the people as to where to bring it. One of the suggestions that we quickly make is that instead of they should bring it very close to the doorstep of the people. I mean, to get it, for the collection of the PVC, bring it closer to the people so that our people have a way of saying, must I go, must I be pursuing things? And also has to do with the way we relate with the public. I mean, institutions of government and all that. So there should be a need to be more people-centered and to relate well with the people in terms of our activities. So that we encourage people even to come forward to pick up some of these. But we should not forget another fact, that some of them may not even be owners. It's possible that people have registered twice or thrice and all that. And because INEC we really have to commend INEC again, starting from 2011, 2015, INEC had some software that are able to dictate when people are, multiple registration and all that. So people may not want to come up, even to pick some of these. So there are a lot of issues, and some may not even be alive again. So we should also factor those ones into it. Some may be underage, and they now realize that things are getting tighter and that you cannot just easily come around and pick up what you have done illegally.
Citizen Way, would you agree with Prof here? Because thinking of 400,000 PVCs yet to be collected, that's quite huge.
Yeah, thank you very much. The number is quite huge, but I think the professor has captured it correctly. Mm-hmm. He has captured the situation correctly. One, he talked about logistics. If the distribution also takes place where people were registered, it will be easy for them to pick their PVC up easily. Secondly, it is also probable that some people had registered more than once, and they now know that it's going to be impossible for them to use the extra voter's card. So why collect it when it's not going to be useful? Then thirdly, some of those people must have passed on. Who is going to collect the PVC for those that have passed on? Then it's like he also mentioned the possibility of underaged voters registration of potential voters who now know they can't use the voters card. So they wouldn't collect it as well, knowing that they would not be able to use it.
Thank you very much. It's still Osun Decides, and those on the field are ready for us again. It's now time to join Eluyemi in Ife, and he'll be telling us what is happening just right there in Ife. Eluyemi, you're on.
It's a central local government distribution center where electoral materials are being distributed to INEC, Ad-hoc staff and other electoral officers for today's governorship election. One of the Ad-hoc staff is here with me. I'm Ishola Esther Omalara. What is your comment about the distribution of electoral materials today?
Actually, they've given us all the electoral instruments we needed, both the sensitive and non-sensitive ones. So we are now on the track to move to our polling units in order to commence the election.
Oloidi Adetola is one of the Ad-hoc staff here.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. What is your comment about the distribution of electoral materials here today?
The distribution of electoral materials has been very easy for us, so as to get to our polling units as fast as possible. As you can see, we are already posting the voters register, and we hope to start the election sooner before our time runs out.
Thank you very much.
Yes, that's Eluyemi's report from Ife. Another thing we are looking at now is the ad hoc staff being used for elections in Osun State. We can see there that most of our ad hoc staff are NYSC members. In fact, it is said that for these Osun elections, 16,000 advocacy staff have been deployed, drawn from NYSC, students of the federal tertiary institutions, workers from federal establishments in Osun State. We've been using these ad hoc staff in years past. Do you think it is working, and what is your take on this?
Yeah, thank you. One thing is that there is no measure that we decide to adopt that you cannot improve upon. But for now, at least since 2011, 2015 general elections that the INEC as led by Professor Jega say you're doing this, we've seen some considerable improvement in the way we conduct our election and even the way the public accept the election results. Earlier we saw what happened in 2015. And this is this has connection with the fact that the adult staffs are drawn majorly from the institution that we felt that should be apolitical, should be they should not take sides in the matter of election. The NYC, one thing about the NYC is also that they don't just use those that are serving in a particular place. So they try to, and they try as much as possible to make sure that those that are used are shuffled around the state or the country as the case may be. And so these people that don't really have political affiliation, and we don't expect them to be doing the biddings of any political leader. So to that extent, we have had improvement, and we are likely to continue to have improvement in our system. We also realize that this day the presiding officer, those returning officer rather, will be making use of academia. I mean, we are expected to be impartial. We are not expected to be, because of the level of integrity that is expected by the society. We have been having it, and things have been working well for us at least. Then we can also improve on this.
Yes, the number in Osun State is quite interesting, 16,000 of them. Where they're saying they have been trained, people believe in, the bodies that are being used as presiding officers. How do you think this is working out for us in Nigeria?
I think, just as the professor said, that they have tried to use people bodies and organizations that are judged are political, so as to lend credence to the system and to make the results of the election acceptable to all, believing that the process that throws up the winner has been fair and just. The number to me, I don't think is too much, neither do I think it's too small, because Osun is quite a big state. There are a number of towns, and then the population, the voting population is also high. And then thinking about making it easy for people to come out to vote, that means polling units must be taken very close to their residents. And as such, I believe that the number is reasonable.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're still expecting a number of reports coming from various polling units and voting points across the state. Now I want us to go to the issue of smart card readers. In Osun State election for today, we have about 4,761 cards readers being used. On the screen there, you can see
Road. Okay, that's okay. Okay. Well, one of the gubernatorial aspirants of Osun State, we are seeing him trying to cast his own vote. He has already gone through the process of accreditation, and now he's going to the voting box to vote. And that's exactly what is happening now. We expect that in a minute or so he will come down and we'll be able to have a talk with him.
Carry this head now. Carry this head. Carry this head.
It is.
You are blocking the camera.
I'm blocking the camera.
Yes.
Am I getting it? Okay. The gubernatorial aspirant is now. The gubernatorial aspirant is now going to vote. The APC gubernatorial aspirant, and it's in Irabiji actually. There is eventually a journalistic carnival here. There are over 50 journalists here, all the cameras, all trying to get a picture of the gubernatorial aspirant for the APC. I must tell you. Let's spread now. Okay, the APC candidate, obviously. Okay. Please let everybody to come here. Leave them. Leave them. Just make way for him. Please. Guys. Saji. Okay. Okay. You cannot stay here. He's coming here. Okay. The APC gubernatorial candidate is going to come to our place now. The expectations is high. Like I told you, so many journalists, all with cameras, all trying to capture a picture of him as he voted. It is expected that maybe in a minute or so from now, we'll be able to have an interview with him.
Sure, you all have exactly. So maybe we should.
We are all back.
You are blocking the AI
You need to move back. You need to move back. You need to move back. You have no space here, please. Go to the back. Please. No space here again. Please go to the back.
Madam? Then let's sit back now.
Ibi number one.
No, because of our two cameras.
Ibi number one. On my Zoom. They move back. Move back. Back. Can we move back a bit? Yes.
Carry tripod now.
You see the problem we are running a camera live.
It's coming up now.
We are running other people. Like other people. Can you see him? Please go back. There's no way here. Please, him alone. Please go back. Must be together. You lead now. Please come forward. Okay. Let's spread out. Let's spread out. Let's stand the camera. Stand the camera. Please, stand the camera.
You know what? Actually, let's get a platform. Let's get a platform so you can have a good angle. Let's get a platform.
Are we okay?
Okay. Are we okay? No, we are not. Move back.
Okay, come on.
He also wants to take a shot. And that is the clip of the voting of the candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, Alhaji Oyetola Gboyega. He is actually the chief of staff to the incumbent governor of Osun State. He also wants to take a shot at Abere. He has just cast his vote, and we are waiting to hear his comment on today's election. But now we have the report of Usman Aliyu, and he was here before. His audio was bad, but he's now ready to tell us what is happening at his end. Usman, you're on.
Please don't go. How would you describe the atmosphere here?
First of all, to God be the glory. The atmosphere is peaceful. People have come out en masse to cast their vote. I've just performed my own civic responsibility as a candidate of the party. INEC has done very well. So far, so good. The security people are doing a good job. I think it's we are looking forward to a very free, fair, and credible election.
What confidence do you have in the process right now, and what are you expecting? What's the confidence of your party right now in this election?
I have a lot of confidence in the process. So far, so good. I mean, I came around with accreditation. Quite very smooth.
So what's my expectation?
My expectation is that we're going to have a very free, fair, and credible election.
So are you overwhelmed with what you see today?
Well, I think I thank God that actually shown a lot of interest in the process of democracy, in ensuring that we enthrone democracy in Nigeria in ensuring that we have a peaceful, fair, and free election.
How satisfied are you, sir, with the information you received from your party agents all across the state?
Well, it's been so far so good. There's been no serious issue for now, save for a few things here and there, which is expected. But I think, by and large, the process has been quite fair. And I think, at the end of the day, we're going to have a very free, fair, and credible election.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Wait. And that is the take of the APC candidate, Oyetola Boyega. He's satisfied with the conduct of the election. He has cast his vote, and he's saying he thinks it's a very good process there. He's satisfied. He has just said it. You're still in the Osun Decide studios here in Osogbo. It's all going on well, and I have with me another guest who I want to introduce right now. She is the convener of Access Nigeria. She's a designer of Braille Ballot, and she is in person of Grace Jerry, who herself is a very special person to us here. Grace, you're welcome to the studios.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's so good.
Organization who came together to design this, and we especially sat down and thought about how it's important for the visually impaired community to vote, and have been to experience what's called a secret ballot process. And we realized that for a while now, people have been trying to come up with a Braille.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's just hold it on. We know that this election is all inclusive. Yes. We want to quickly take another report coming in from town. We'll come back and you give us explanations of it. We're going to Oyo, where we also have our report coming in.
Joseph Oguniran is one of the about 1.5 million Nigerians who are blind, which makes up the about 29.7 million persons living with disability of the estimated 198 million Nigerians. Joseph Oguniran now has the opportunity not to be disenfranchised, with an opportunity to vote his choice candidate.
The formal way, you may ask somebody to ask you to put your finger on party C, the person will put your finger at party A, and you don't know, since you can say it.
Grace Jerry, an advocate for persons living with disability in Nigeria, is one of those who contributed to the development of the system.
And the Braille ballot guide is simply an assistive device that has a Braille on it. And the visually impaired voter will just place the ballot paper underneath and then trace the parties, the various parties of their choice with their fingers, and then trace whichever party they want to vote for, and then thumbprint.
We are seeing at a time when...
For David, it will not just help them to vote, but also be voted for.
It is when we get to that level that we can say that we've arrived in the electoral process, knowing that it is a gradual process.
The Electoral Act provides that such enablements, like Braille, should be provided for persons who need it. It's a step in the right direction.
The system is expected to be used in the 2019 general elections.
It is going to be very helpful to them and assist them to do this, particularly those among them who are educated will be able to do it, use it on their own.
There are 3,010 polling units in Osun State.
With the introduction of the Braille ballot guide, Joseph Oguniran and his likes will be able to vote unaided, in secrecy, and without invalidating their votes. In Osogbo, Adebola, Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
Yes, thank you, Adebola Brooklyn Sunday. It's all inclusive here in Osogbo. Indeed, it's a trailblazer here in Osun Decides Osogbo studios here. We have live with us Grace Jerry. Privileged to have you here. We just heard you on that report. Exactly. Now, can you explain further?
Yes, and history is being made first in Osogbo and then in Nigeria, because this is the first time the visually impaired voter would vote unaided, would enjoy what is called a secret ballot process. And this is interesting because even a visually impaired person who does not understand how to read a Braille still will be able to use the Braille ballot guide. And it's very easy. The Electoral Act, Section 56, subsection 1, says you can go with someone you trust to help you, to assist you. So when they go with an assistant, what we taught them during the training, when we had the training for the visually impaired voters in Osun on how to use this Braille, those who don't understand, we told them when you go with someone you trust, tell them to help you identify the party of your choice. So if it's PRN, they help you take your thumbprint to feel, first of all, the Braille, and then also lead you through the arrow to where the box is. And that is where you would now thumbprint neatly. So the box helps even someone who does not understand Braille to thumbprint in such a way that he doesn't smear ink into another box. As such, result to an invalid vote. So this Braille ballot guide serves both those who understand Braille and those who do not understand Braille. And for us, it's so exciting because the day of the training, you know, you could see the joy and the expression on the faces and from the mouth of this, you know, visually impaired voter. In fact, one of them said he's so happy that in his lifetime, he gets to vote without needing somebody to help him. And in seconds, they understood what to do. So, you know, the Access Nigeria team were so happy that we were able to come up with this in such a short time. And INEC embraced it immediately. You know, INEC accepted this design from the Access Nigeria, and they have deployed it to, right now we're getting field, you know, reports coming in from our team of observers. There are about 23 team of observers now in about 23 LGAs that the Braille ballot has been deployed to. And we have roving observers in the 3 senatorial zones who are ensuring that this Braille ballot guide is deployed and is used effectively. And we have gotten reports that in some LGAs it's been deployed and visually impaired voters have started voting. So this is exciting for us that it is already being in use, you know, and other people with disabilities too are coming out to vote. We are getting pictures, we are getting feedback. And to specially thank INEC for this, you know, for this huge step in the right direction, you know, that they embraced this and are using it. You know, I especially would like to thank, if you would give me the time, thank the INEC chairman himself, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, you know, for accepting, you know, to use this design that, you know, the Access Nigeria team came up with. And to also thank Hajia Amina Zakari. She is just awesome. To thank Dr. Ogumola.
And to thank, going to be enough space, time to thank
Dr.
and thank.
Simbine, all of them, to thank them for this opportunity.
Okay.
Yes.
We will still have time to talk to you, talk more about how this is just Osun State.
Exactly.
When we're going to the general elections next year, are we going to have enough of these? What are the preparations to ensure that this goes across the country, the length and breadth?
Exactly.
We'll still come back to that. I'm being told that we're getting ready to have a one-on-one with the APC candidate. Okay, we can, I'm told we can still continue our discussion here. So you tell us, you know, how far you have gone.
We got some information that in Odo-Otin, I may not be able to pronounce it as you would. Yes, Odo-Otin, one blind person has voted using the Braille ballot guide. In Egbedore, yes, another visually impaired voter has voted using the Braille ballot guide, totaling about 7 visually impaired people so far, from the information I have received, have voted using the Braille ballot guide. And in some pictures that was sent in, we even saw the magnifying glass, you know, deployed to some places for those who have impaired sight, who can't even read small print. You know, they can use the Braille, the magnifying glass. And so far, it's been going great, going well. And like I said, INEC has, you know, really made a huge step in the right direction. 2019, we're going to improve on this and make sure that we meet with our team, our allies, you know, to see how we can sit together and come up with something that is even more workable and give enough and ample time to train more visually impaired voters across the country on how to, you know, use this. Our allies, that's the Joint National Association of People with Disabilities, the NAVVID Network for the Advancement of People with Visible Disability, and other organizations of persons with disabilities across the country. We are all going to sit down again and look critically on this and see how well we can, you know, spread the Braille ballot guide and how effective it can be used. Because this came up on such a short notice. when INEC approved this, you know, it came up on such a short notice, and we came up with this quickly. And there wasn't enough time, you know, for the training to go around the whole of Osun, but we were able to train at least over 150 people to be able to use this. But towards 2019, all our allies will come together in good time to work and make sure that this is more effective.
I would not know if you have statistics of how many of your members would be voting today.
Well, I know that in Osun there are over, I think, about close to like maybe 50 or 100,000 visually impaired voters. Impaired people.
Impaired.
Yes.
Visually impaired people.
The Access Nigeria team came up with the data on, you know, quickly we came up with the data, and on that data, the visually impaired voters that we were able to gather, you know, capture about close to about 160 of them. But then we didn't have the chance and the time to go around the whole of Osun. But what we did was to make sure that we put out messages, and we told them the Braille ballot guide will be deployed to the polling, to some various polling units, about 23 LGAs. And we told them, look out for those LGAs, look out for these POs. About 89 polling units, this was deployed to, and about 133 voting areas, this was deployed to. We told them, look out for these areas and make sure you go. And when you get there, ask them specifically for the Braille ballot guide, because it's provided for you. We have a data of just 160 plus of them, but there are many of them in the grassroots who we didn't get the opportunity to gather their data. But we told them specifically, make sure you go out and use this. For us, we want to achieve 100% use of this Braille ballot guide. And this will further inform us, you know, working and making sure that it's available nationwide for the 2019 general election.
Thank you, Grace. Let me go to Prof now. You have to react to what. First, we saw on Lanre Bile's report where we saw them giving one of the physically challenged time to take it to have his vote first. Now you have seen what Grace has come up with. How do you react to this?
Yeah, I must commend Grace for this initiative. And we must also commend INEC, just as he said, for accepting it and deploying it for the Osun election. I want to even talk about the effect of what she has come up with and that have been accepted. You know, when we talk about democracy, it's a government, at least the commonest definition is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And so when a great number of the people, we'll talk about 50,000 visually impaired people living in Osun, you've really cut out a sizable portion of the electorate. Exactly. And so now, even if we do not cut them off totally, like we've been having them being guided in the past, we ended up, sometimes they ended up having wrong choices. Yeah. I was monitoring a channel yesterday, and a classmate of mine who was formerly the president.
Let me just cut you a while. We want to join Hamis Irogo in Iragbiji, where he's talking with the APC candidate.
People have turned out massively to cast their vote. The process is actually very good. INEC is doing a very good job. There's been no issues with carry reader. It took me just a few seconds for me to do my accreditation. Ditto with my wife and my kids. So I look forward to very credible, free and fair election.
So as far as the election is concerned, what are the feedbacks you are getting from the other parts of the state? This is Irabiji.
Yes, I think I've not had any serious reports of any serious breach, but it's still quite early enough. As time progresses, we want to find out what is happening in all parts of the state. But there's been no serious issue.
But do you have a word or two for the electorate? Well, not about political campaign, about maybe the ability, let them stay, vote, and be patient, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think people believe that this is an opportunity to determine who rules them for the next 4 years. So everybody's eager. People are very eager, they're excited to participate in this process. So it's been quite encouraging.
But you are happy with the process? You are satisfied?
Yeah, so far so good, yes. I am satisfied.
Okay, let me talk to the madam. She's looking radiant, sitting close to you. Madam, what's your feeling? What's your experience? Tell me.
I'm very happy seeing people casting their vote.
Did you cast yours?
Yes, I did.
So what's your experience? Tell me, what did you see?
It's a nice experience, very short. No time was wasted, you know.
Are you optimistic about the process?
Definitely, yes.
Okay. So generally you're happy too?
I'm very happy.
So congratulations.
Thank you
very much.
Candidate there giving you his take on today's election. We're also going to be reaching the PDP candidates' reaction, reaching out for the PDP candidates' reaction. I don't know whether our reporter is ready with that yet. If not, okay, so it's ready, let's have it.
They are blocking our view. It's to vote.
That's from Ede Senator Adeleke casting his vote along with his wife and his family members. He's one of the major contenders in today's election. We just brought you that of the APC. Now it's the turn of the PDP. His ballot paper is he's taking that very decisive decision today. Hopefully, our crop of reporters will also be bringing you other contenders from the other areas.
But I hope the carry that works, because it took a long process before the card reader started working. So I hope the carry that will work. But so far, so good. It's been peaceful.
How optimistic are you, sir?
Well, we have free and fair election.
He has just confirmed that we have free and fair election. It seems to me that it's all smooth, fine in today's elections. All the contenders, the voters, the presiding officers are all confirming from across the states that there's no problem at all. I think this is really a good thing happening here in Osogbo and indeed in Osun State. Everybody's happy with what is going on. And just like they were saying, they were discussing in Abuja earlier in the day, there is no violence at all. It's a very, very peaceful atmosphere here in Osun State. Everyone from every nook and cranny is confirming that we have a very, very peaceful atmosphere. I think even the weather is cooperating because we had very early morning showers and has made the day so beautiful for us here in Osogbo, and I want to believe across the state also. Just before we had that break to go to the field to see what our contenders are doing, we were talking about the new innovation, talking about the Braille that has been introduced at today's election. And Prof, you were giving us your take on this.
Thank you. Like I said earlier, democracy is about people's electing their representative. And the people really matters. And so when, in the past, that we didn't have this Braille system, what we'll be having is the visually impaired voters relying on the judgment of another person.
Yeah.
And in some cases, that may not really work because we can have somebody who had misdirected the person that is supposed to direct rightly. And so, but with this this innovation, then the visually impaired person will know that he or she is really casting his or her ballot the way it should be. And that's make this election more inclusive. And earlier we were talking about even the arrangement, the voting arrangement, even on the field. We had reports from the field that the physically challenged people were allowed to vote first, the women, elderly, and other. So this portends good women for us as a country, even as a state, and they're talking about country in 2019. So we have a situation whereby we now realize that the more the merrier. Yeah. Because like the Sustainable Development Goals say that when you allow more people into governance, then we are likely to have better options. Exactly. And so that is my take on that.
Yes, we're taking another report from the field. Ayomiku Ajibola is in Ede North. Ayomiku, we're on to you.
This is town hall area in Ede where we have 2 polling units comprising Ward 8, Unit 3 with 381 voters, and same Ward 8 but Unit 4 with 512 voters. The election process is going on peacefully. The electoral officers came in as early as 8 o'clock and everything is going on peacefully. Now I have one of the electorate here who is going to speak with me on the conduct of the election. Sir, how will you describe the process of this election? So far, so good.
We really thank God. The accreditation and the voting is going on perfectly at this Buhari Isubo polling unit. We have almost 1,000 votes here. One is having 500 something and the other one is having 300 something. So far, it's going on fine.
I'm very pleased with the security arrangement. I'm saying that security men on ground, especially areas that are flashpoint.
In all the polling units we have visited so far, card reader has been functioning very well. Back to you in the studio.
We want to apologize for some shaky audio in that report. Before we hand back over to Abuja, Femi in Abuja, I want to say thank you, Prof, for being a part of Osun Decides for today. I don't know whether you'll be back before the studio closes, but we thank you for your contribution. And Grace, we also thank you for being here. I think you're still here with us. We might have 1 or 2 things we'll still have to discuss. But for now, we will be going back to Femi in Abuja for our panel of discussants to take it off from here. Femi, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, Funke. You've given us so much to chew here, and I must say a lot too have been happening in Osun State generally, all positive. And like to use the words of all the people who have made comments, for now, everything seems to be running on well. And truly, in elections like this, everything seems to run well in the process until results begin to come in. You are used to that, Mr. Osazeuzi.
Yes, in some instances that has been experienced. It will appear that, I don't know whether to say this in the way I am thinking about it, is that some people are not very good losers. When the results turn out, even though they praise the process, when the results turn out and it doesn't go in their favor, they seem to look for excuses why they did not win, in the hope that they thought they would have won that election. I hope that will not be the case this time around. Although I've been in this studio once or twice before where one or two candidates have complained very bitterly about the process, yes. And when the results come out, it's in their favor, and they say, oh yes, yes. Oh, we did this, we did that, it's what we did that ensured it.
It happens in the courts. When they win, they say the judiciary is the last hope of,
indeed, of the common man.
For common man.
Yes, indeed.
And now, let's take an overhead view of what we are all doing in Osun. The delineation, the constituencies, the votes, the polling units. Let's take a picture of this. Can you give us a lowdown of what this whole thing is going to zero down on?
Yes.
Yes, please.
If I may just go on board, I think. Yes, basically.
We can share with our viewers.
That's correct. These are some of the data coming up from Osun. Of course, you are very well aware that there are 30 local government areas in the states, and 332 registration areas. Now, the issue following that, out of this is delineated to 332 registration areas and broken up 3,010 polling units. These are the established polling units, but because some of these are congested or because some of these are a bit further away, we have voting points to make it more convenient for registered voters to exercise their franchise without having to travel too far, where the polling units is very far or where it's congested and we have the voting points. So voting will be taking place, but these 755 are under the number of polling units, 310. So results will come from these 3,010 polling units. Of course,
the registration areas have finished their job as it concerns this election for now. Registration areas.
There are two stages to the job. First of all, materials have to be distributed from local government areas to the registration areas, and from the registration area where the camps are to the polling units. So for now, this morning session, all the materials are in the polling units now. But the reverse is the case later on in the afternoon. Yes. Results will be declared in every polling unit, and they will be pasted at the center at each polling unit, and from there the collation will start. Only one presiding officer, and only one result will come from the polling units, regardless of the number of voting points they are attached to that polling unit. So basically, after the local government area collation, we'll go to the final collation, which is the state collation center, because it's one constituency, or the whole of Osun State is one constituency for this purpose. So these other data is not relevant.
Let's go to the next page, because it would seem senatorial districts for now are not very relevant.
They are not relevant to this discussion. State constitution is not so relevant.
The state constitution.
But the total number of registered voters partaking in this election, entitled to partake in this election, is 1,682,495 voters. But not all of them will participate, because not all of them collected their voters' cards. About 430,000 did not collect out of this figure, did not collect their voters' cards. And without the PVC, there is no voting. So about 73% or thereabouts collected voters' cards, just over 1.2 million. So the total number of votes expected is just over 1,250,000 voters. So this basically is the data that you'll use for this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osazeuzi. While you take your seat, let me go to our police officer here. Now we have a beautiful picture of what you people deployed so massively for. And it's not just the police that's in it. I'm sure this time we now know that you also need the partnership. Give us also a picture of the kind of partnerships you have.
Well, if I may use the word of the Inspector General of Police, he said he wanted a robust security of the environment, and we had to draw from our friendly forces according to our operational order. So from these friendly forces, we have about 7,000 personnel drawn from the military, immigration, civil defense, prisons, and other friendly agencies. And you would ask, why the military? We had to take care of the contiguous state that surrounds Osun State. So the military, they assisted in ensuring that the border areas, the border states are protected. And we wouldn't equally lose sight of the fact that, notwithstanding that we are conducting the election in Osun State, the other states that surround Osun State, there was need to to be cautious on so that we don't have infiltrations or any threat. And these friendly forces, like I told you, we make sure that each of the organization, we make use of take advantage of their strength to complement each other, either in manning the polling booths or units. And like you know, in the polling units, we have 4 police personnel with 2 others from the other organization. And they too assist in escorting materials. They are part of the joint operation room. And the routine patrol we conduct, they too have their own specialized unit, which are used in complementing the effort of the police and even in intelligence gathering. So the synergy has been very, very wonderful. And we attain this through persistent orientation and education as to the responsibility and functions expected of them. And I can tell you it has been very, very wonderful working as a unit.
You two have a situation room. So far, have there been calls coming into situation rooms? I ask this because I also know that you are also in Oshogbo as we are in the studio.
Yes, we have a situation room that is jointly manned by the police and other sister agencies. And there are about 5 telephone lines that are opened, especially for information and intelligence gathering, most especially to tackle the new hydra we've observed, that is the vote buying, even though it's part of the development because it is no longer fashionable for you to see ballot snatching of ballot boxes. So that shows that we've perfected our act and we are prepared to tackle these other aspects that we are realizing. That is why information should be passed to the joint operation rooms for us to act diligently.
Now, Professor Ajayi, before we went to our Osun studios there, I was asking a question that in the political map of Osun State, my observation is that they don't seem to care so much about, you correct me if I'm wrong, about distribution or zoning. I think that's the word I should use. There are 3 senatorial districts in Osun, and I think from what I see in this particular election, there hasn't been this clamor that it doesn't come from our side. We have not had it. We have not been governors before. We have not. Am I correct in that observation? And what would inform that kind of level of maturity?
Yes, thank you. To a very large extent, you are correct. Just as we had during the Ekiti elections, we are not seeing much of the clamor on ethnic politics or tribal politics in this case. You recall, let me go back to the Ekiti state. We had more or less a homogeneous entity in Ekiti.
Yes.
So it's very difficult for you to play the tribal game. We have not seen much of that in Osun as such. Even though the contenders, the major gladiators, let me put it that way, come from different areas. You have the Ife, you have the Ede, you have the Ijesha, whatever. Now, if you ask me, I think we cannot divorce this from, one, the nature of the political culture, of that terrain. Secondly, the degree of political socialization. And of course, the level of participation that we have seen historically in that setting. The factors are just peculiar, like I said at the beginning. In political culture, we talk about the cognitive orientation. Yeah. You see, your knowledge about the system. Whether we like it or not, studies have shown in that part of the country, we have knowledgeable set of people in high number. Yeah. So it's very difficult for you to maneuver and come to such people to play the tribal game. Secondly, we talk of their affective orientation. To what extent, are you really bothered with what happens around you? And in the Osun scenario, people are bothered. People are asking questions. So if you are not able to answer my questions, it's very difficult for you to convince me. Yeah. Trying to play
that because we come from the same place.
Exactly. And the third orientation is the judgmental. That is your ability to really participate, in what happens around you and take decisions. And I can tell you, from what we have seen thus far, look at the high number, or look at the high turnout. Yes. You see, people are going to exercise without being casual, without being told. Even if you don't offer them money to come out, I believe that the average Oshuman want to participate in this election for obvious reasons. And of course, like I said, we talk of the socialization process. Socialization in terms of, are you really parochial? I don't see the Oshuman as being parochial. You see, I don't see him as being complacent with what happens around him. He wants to take decisions, he wants to be part of it. And that has its own history. That is why over there you talk of a highly, participant political culture and political terrain. And that is what, is being demonstrated there. No violence, no cajoling whatsoever. So it's going to be very difficult for you to claim that somebody should vote for you because he's from your area, from his area, as we see in other parts of the world. And apart from the ethnic card, you look at the religious card. It's not going to work, in such a terrain. No. People, and I think it's a very good omen, for the Nigerian scene. Even though it will be very difficult to replicate such, but that is the future we should envisage, so that it is not about the primordial sentiments that we peddle around during elections. It's about what you have to offer. What's your pedigree? When you were there, what did you do to warrant going back there? If such questions are asked, I think the political terrain will change for the better.
Okay. And now, so far, we have not delved into this area. But since we have gone to Osun Studios and come back, we have a slight picture of what the voting environment looks like. And so we can talk about it. Vote trading, to use a new cliche which I got from Mr. Osaze, vote buying. We look at the setting there. One, I expect a marketplace there. Because if one of the conditions of participation is observed, we are supposed to have not less than 48 agents in every polling unit. I don't know how you're going to accommodate that. To be able to check this idea of either brandishing your voter, your ballot paper after it, Mr. Zazi.
Yes, there should be a maximum of 48 agents, political party or candidates agents at every polling unit, because the law allows for one agent per unit per political party if they meet the requirements. That is, if they submit the names of the candidates well ahead of time. The latest time for submission was 14 days to the elections. Then they are allowed to submit to have a candidate. In all aspects of the process, at the collation stages in both the election areas, in the local government and in the state collation center, as well as every process, everywhere where we have a process of distribution of materials. So right from the central bank, there are lots of parties that were represented, so that they follow and track the movement of the materials right up to the end points. So yes, it's a logistic nightmare, but also don't forget that in some of the reports we received, the agents were complicit in this act of vote trading. The polling unit is not a marketplace. It's not a place for trading or for inducement. It's against the law to either induce a person to vote or not to vote, or to vote for a particular candidate. So, of course, in the realization that this should not be allowed to fester, we rearranged and reconfigured the polling units. Also, the positioning of the polling agents, that the party agents should not be too close to the place where you cast your vote, so as not to allow you see, because it's a question of seeing and buying. So if you don't see, hopefully there will be no question of purchasing, because you wouldn't have known how they voted. If you have too much money to throw around, by all means, but he may, the voter may or may not have voted for you. But they're very selfish. The buyers are very selfish. They want to ensure that these the vote is for them. Yeah. Before they give you the money. So there's that reconfiguration has helped a bit in that. And with the eyes of the world, I think they should be more circumspect. Maybe they will do it, but in a more covert manner, not in the same brazen manner as the. But we're monitoring the situation very closely, working in conjunction with the security agencies who have special briefing on this. We even have a dedicated number to report, apart from our usual platforms. There's a dedicated number to report incidents of vote buying, which is 0908 4444 333. 0908 4444-333. So if you see anything in Osun, please call that number. In addition to our social media handles, you can report on Facebook and Twitter. We always like to get evidence of that, but I'm happy your reporters are on ground. So far, there's been no reports that I'm aware of any incidents of vote trading, whether buying or selling.
Mr. Amba, have you heard, like, to use the words that's just been used, that brazen use of money to acquire votes, it came to a head in Ekiti. It's not as if before now things like that had not happened, but it came to a head in Ekiti. With the positioning of the voting units, the voting centers, how effective can the law enforcement agents be this time?
Well, obviously, you know, we learn every day. And for every election, the Inspector General of Police makes sure dedicated officers sit down to analyze situation. We analyzed what happened in Ekiti, and I think we've definitely improved on that. In the first instance, there's been a lot of education. Those that have nothing to do within the polling booth are not allowed. Policemen are not allowed to follow their principles to voting areas. And there's a lot of decongestion of the voting area. Besides, the Inspector General of Police, the IGP K. Idris, had ensured that apart from the uniformed policemen you have in Osun State, there are a lot of intelligence officers that have been deployed. And the duties of this intelligence officer is to ensure effective intelligence gathering as regards vote buying or trading in votes. But we have to commend the fact that since it is no longer in vogue for ballot boxes to be snagged due to the outer cordoning we have carried out, you will see at the polling booth you have unarmed policemen, but within a particular distance there are armed one and police patrol teams moving around the clock. So everybody that is on Osun State knows that there is no way you commit an offense that you will not be caught. And with the Joint Control Room, we keep on receiving information. So far it has been so wonderful, so good, and I think Nigerians, they are out for a very peaceful and free election.
Political historians will be shocked to add this to what they have to look at in the political evolution of Nigeria. What are your comments? You and your colleagues, what have you been thinking about since this issue became a very prominent issue in our political environment, vote buying, vote trading?
Well, to us in the academia, there is nothing really spectacular about this, if you ask me. What you're only witnessing is the degree, the level of sophistication, the brazenness with which it is being conducted. So you are talking of the entire monetization, excuse me, of the electoral process. And like you said, it didn't just start today. And if I may add, we may be here just scratching the surface. It's a product of a well-established menace, if you ask me. And that has to do with the entire political economic structure of the country. The issue of vote buying is part and parcel of the general problems of underdevelopment in any society, not only in Nigeria, where you can induce an adult with mega sums just to change his conscience. It tells a lot, about the structure of our economy and about the structure of our politics. And if you look at what is happening in Nigeria today, the sing-song is that perhaps some people deliberately underdevelop their subjects such that this money will make money to them at the end of the day.
You have just nailed it. And let me be specific now. We're told that in Ekiti, people were not paid salaries, but 1 or 2 days to the election, they got alert. Osun too is not an exception to that. Now, we may not have heard of alert now, but we know that salaries have not been paid in Ekiti. Can't it replicate itself?
Well, we are saying that because we just had elections in Ekiti, and we are having it in Osun. Out of the truth, I can tell you, this thing is pervasive. when I say pervasive, it can be replicated in any state of the federation. And I say this because when you look at the poverty level in the society, the high rate of unemployment, the inflationary trends, in the society, there is no way you will be able to do away with this issue of whether vote buying, vote purchase, or vote trading, as we call it. Because we are talking of situations where people are owed months of salaries, and at the end of the day, you give them 3,000, 5,000 naira, they will take it. You see, we have had stories in this country where some people, gave up the ghost just because they couldn't afford 2,000 naira to treat malaria. And at the end of the day, you give such a person 5,000, 10,000 naira, he will not take, he will take it. See, the worry is that, for me, the way and manner the people are being dehumanized, all in the name of vote, and it cuts across all the parties. It's not peculiar to any party. Speaks volume. In the past, we heard of lorry loads of rice being distributed across the country. Yeah. We heard of bales of clothes being distributed. Are these things you can point at. But today, what do we see? You see rice in polythene bag, yeah. Cassava in this, bread in that. The level standard of living, it's not to write home about. Even those who are in employment, tell me the real value of the wages that we have today. In an economy where you have 18,000 minimum wage, and people who don't have access to the major means of livelihood, like I said, it's not peculiar to any state. And I'm not particular about any political party. I'm talking about the structure of the political economy. You see, you cannot but find this type of atrocity and abnormality that we are witnessing. But we hope that one day the people too will learn. Take this money, it's your right. If you are not paid this money legally and you are paid illegally, take it. But at the end of the day, exercise your conscience and vote along your conscience. And I hope that this issue of stopping, people taking the photographs of their ballot papers, will help them a lot. That if you offer this money, especially when you know that this money is from the state coffers, you take it. I can't believe that somebody will work genuinely for his money and dispense such money the way we see it in Nigeria. It speaks volume about the level of our conscience and integrity.
Now, let's talk about, since it's still useful for now, there are people who may be listening and watching, and they're still within voting time. What's the situation about your monitoring of response to the compliance that people don't walk into their voting after they collected their ballot paper? How responsive have people been so far?
Oh, there's been good compliance. Our monitors have not noticed any untoward activity in that regard. It's obvious that the people of Osun have demonstrated so far a high level of commitment, a high level of they're shunning it. They're complying with the request that do not take your telephones or cameras, smartphones into the polling booth, into the cubicle for polling. There are lots of people who have been monitoring social media, lots of people who have been taking photographs of what's happening around the vicinity of the polling center, which is completely, totally allowed, and it's actually encouraged by the commission. Yes. So that, in fact, in the initial reports of commencement of polls came from citizens of Osun State who were taking photographs and uploading videos of with comments of how pleasantly surprised they were that things were, the officials were there even before the scheduled time for commencement. So there's been high level of compliance. I'm quite pleased about that.
Mr. Amba, deterrent is one area where we can use to stem this ugly trend that it's coming up. But we haven't seen much in terms of deterrent.
Well, it's one area we've tried to improve on. Like I told you, there are lots of intelligence officers, not only from the police, from the civil defense, from the immigration. And when they gather this, there is already on the ground an investigating team that is comprised of the Force CID, the IG Response Unit, and other investigating bodies. By the time they gather this information or arrests are made, it is immediately handed over to the intelligence team for If you commit an offense in this very election, you will be prosecuted. And I think the IG is determined to do that.
Political parties they are not equally strong in all environments. They are strong in a place and a little weak in another place. And so what we have seen in some past elections is that they acquire ballot papers in areas where they are strong, thumbprint, and export to other areas. But this time we're told that INEC has customized ballot papers as per local government, particular colors for particular local government. How does this work out? How does it operate?
Well, first of all, we do not in the Commission recognize whether parties are strong in any particular locality.
That's my own comment.
Yes, I know. I'm just saying that it's fair
Yes.
comment, but in the Commission, it's only the results of the election that determine the strengths of respective strengths of the political parties. But I've heard that coming from the media, from political analysts, and from scientists and everything else. But as far as we are concerned, the strength of a political party of a candidate is determined by the results of the election. The scenario you painted is futile for anybody to try to export ballot papers from one locality to another. Absolutely futile, because for quite a while now, several election cycles, we've been color coding all our ballot papers, all our result sheets. If our result sheets almost right to the polling unit. So you cannot take one from polling unit A and take it to polling unit B. You cannot take ballot papers from a particular ward to another one or regional area, or from one local government to the other. It will be futile, because we saw, I think, about 2 or 3 incidents in Ekiti where there was an attempt to do so. And then they are sorted out. The color coding is clear and it's visible to everybody. The first thing you do after the voting ends is to sort out the ballot papers before you start counting. Sort it out. All that belongs. There's anyone that does not belong to that particular polling.
High level of collection. How can, is it civil society? Is it INEC? What organization can impress on people the need to collect your cards after you have registered? I think you have done the most difficult part of registration. Now the card is ready and it's not collected.
There are 2 dimensions to that. If genuinely people have registered and have not collected, then we can encourage not only the government, the civil society organizations, religious bodies, to wage in, and impress it on citizens to go ahead and collect these cards. And like our colleague mentioned in Oshogbo, we have to make the exercise user-friendly, as they say. We are talking about a situation where people may not necessarily, not all the people, will be interested in the outcome of this election. And whether you like it or not, we give it to them. We don't have 100% people participation anywhere in the world. So these 400,000 we are talking about, do they really exist? If they do, how do we get across to them? And that is the challenge the mass media, the civil society must undertake with a view to mobilizing, educating. On the other hand, like I said, if you look at the process of registration, like we saw in recent past, even during some elections, and I give it to INEC. INEC, in its wisdom, in its ability, has tried at least to live above board. But you still cannot rule out, some negative tendencies, on the part of the society, where you may have underage registration, voters, quote-unquote, registration, where you may have maybe multiple registration, as it were. The question some people are asking is that, do these 400,000 really exist? If they do, then what is the problem? And I think these are where we need to marry the two. If you look at in most cases, we have had the opportunity of participating in elections, either as collation officers or returning officers. If you look at the number of registered voters, these are these number of people that actually turn out to vote. The disparity is always there. And questions are always being asked. Was it really true that so millions registered and you are having just less than 500 participating? You know, there's something must be wrong somewhere. And to us in the academia, we may also not be able to divorce this, you know, from the general trend in society. Are people really enthusiastic about the system? You know, until much recently, do we really have people who are committed to seeing, you know, the type of leader the society desire emerge?
Someone who is not enthusiastic had gone through the process of registration.
If you recall, you know, there were some states in this country that made registration almost a compulsory,
yes,
you know, aspect of the civil service. People believe that if they did not, perhaps there will be a negative, you know, action.
Such states can therefore go ahead and also make it compulsory for you to have a voter's card.
That is why I said it involves both the government, the civil society, religious organizations. But don't also forget that the exercise we are talking about voting, is a fundamental human right. It's not a compulsion under the Nigerian Constitution.
Yes.
So you cannot force me to even collect my voter's card. It's at my discretion, you know. So until the Constitution provides otherwise, that there's a penalty for not having a voter's card. It's just like saying if I don't have an international passport, you know, I may not be able to travel out of the country. Yes. I may not be able to use it for what, but it's not compulsory that I must own one. And it's not compulsory I must own a driver's license if I don't drive a car or a motorcycle. Yes. So the Nigerian Constitution also provides for that. It does not provide that once you are 18, you must have a voter's card. Until you have it, then perhaps we say if you are 18 and we require your voter's card before you are admitted to the university, yes, or you require a voter's card before you are granted your driver's license by FRSC, or before you are granted international passport by immigration. So until these are put in place, then we don't have, you know, a 100% turnout the way we have it now.
Mr. Osazewuzie, is it demoralizing that whole process, both the people and INEC go through those processes, only for you to find hundreds of thousands of cards lying fallow? Look at all the campaign about extending voter registration, and INEC extended, people rushed, and there are still people who are saying that please give us more time and all that, only for that to be completed, and you see in your store hundreds of thousands.
Yes, indeed, it is quite demoralizing, quite honestly. I wouldn't know why people will go through the trouble, and your reports over the past few months have shown several respondents complaining about how tedious it sometimes is to go through that process. So it's demoralizing to think of the resources that have been put in place, the time, the effort that have been put in place, yet people do not want to, for whatever reason, come back to collect, haven't gone through the rigors in some cases to collect those cards. It distorts our system. The government has spent resources in getting these things in place, so it's quite demoralizing. But it does happen. Prof. Ajayi can tell us there are people who go to universities and don't collect their certificates for long periods of time. You know, there are people who register for exams and don't turn up to sit for the exams, and these are life-changing things. But everybody has a responsibility to try and get people. Some countries make it mandatory for you to be registered or mandatory for you to vote. So if that was the case, but I'm not too sure whether we agree. We have no, as a commission, have an opinion about that. But I think we can conserve resources. If you do not intend to make use of that card, why bother to go all that way to get registered?
Professor Ajayi, political parties are the major beneficiaries of, allow me to use the word beneficiary. The citizenry, too, are also beneficiaries if you have a government. But in terms of who gets there, it is the political parties that are eventual beneficiaries. And yet, from records, they do next to nothing about voter education. What would you advise in this age? Because a high level of voter education can also trickle down into collecting PVCs and other things.
Yes, beyond the struggle for power in Nigeria, I don't see any other role being performed by our own political parties. And that is an abnormality to the democratic process, if you ask me. Yes, you are very correct that the role of political parties all over the world apart from seeking the mandate of the people, is also to educate the citizenry politically. What we have here as education, you see rallies, musicians invited here and there, to dance, and at the end of the day, it all boils down to the fundamental factor that our politics is not issue-based. For instance, if as a political party you stand on an ideological platform, it is left for that party not only to inform the citizenry what it stands for, but also to educate them on why it believes in the cause of this action. If you have a stand on the economy, on foreign questions, whether resources, and you educate. But here, we're not talking about, nobody is asking relevant questions from any of the parties, what the ideology is. And that is why there is little on education, coming from them. So it's a reflection of what the role of political parties are, how they are playing this role, and whether they're actually playing this role or not. In a situation where you have no role to play, what do you have to educate people about?
Okay, Mr. Amba, you, by now, at this time, voting is still on, and but what we have always experienced during votings like this is that this is even the easy part. When the results are being moved, or collation is in process and results are being announced, it's a little quiet in terms of voting, but more tension-packed in terms of expectations. What are your people's briefing when it's this area?
Well, like I told you, presently we are in 40% area. That is the actual voting. But we are equally, we've made necessary arrangements, security arrangement during the collation of the results, where the security men on duty are well conversant with those that are expected to be within the area. Even the security men will not congest that area because everybody has his own tag and you are supposed to be where you are to be. So we'll avoid, first of all, is to ensure there is good crowd control, there is restriction for those who are supposed to be there, and those who are not have no business there. And we've equally instructed our men, they've been lectured on the need to be very firm, though polite, in carrying out their assignment. There has been a lot of education on this aspect, and we are going to use the experiences that we've gathered from previous election to ensure that there is no problem in this area.
Okay, now Oshogbo is ready for us again. I'm sure there are updates, and there would be every minute, I'm sure. And so, Funke, we want to see what has transpired in the last few minutes when we have returned to Abuja here. And possibly if you have guests who want to look into the situation. Funke, over to you.
Thank you very much, Femi. Yes, things are happening here in Oshogbo at the Osun Decide Studios. It's been a robust discussion from your end there in Abuja. And I want to take you up from talking about the process going well, the voting and the accreditation, but wondering what will happen at the collation point. It gives a feeling that, is it too good to be true? Well, I have with me joining us on set another guest, Ezenwa Uwagu. He's the chairman partners for Electoral Reform and member working group of Watching the Vote, Yaga Africa. Ezenwa, what is your take on this? Well, I'm being told that some reports are coming out from the field. We have one of our contenders from the Osun is talking about Iyola Omisore, who has also cast his vote. Tokwe Alabi's report is ready now.
This is Ward 4, Unit 4 Olorunshogo Ojoro in Ede North local government area of the state. And of course, 1,003 voters are expected to cast their vote on this day of the election. I have with me one of the voters who had just exercised her franchise, of course, physically challenged, and she has been able to do justice to what we are supposed to do today. Her name is Riskat Ayinde Ronke. Madam, what exactly happened today, and how did you see the way the conduct have been done? So far, so good.
The conduct is good and nice one.
Was the accreditation done?
Yes, done on time and vote in time. I'm voting in time.
Well, so far so good. At this unit, there has not been any complaint by voters. Even the officials, security men, everybody are all on ground to ensure that the exercise is itch-free. Of course, the electoral materials arrived on time, and many of the voters are already on the queue waiting to cast their vote. Voting is still in progress here in Olorunshogo Ojoro. That will be all for now from this unit. Over to you in the studio.
Yes, we're now going to join our correspondent in Osun East, where we are seeing Senator Iyola Omisore perform his franchise. Okay, we'll still go back to our discussion. And like I said, we have with us Ezenwa Nwagu, the chairman of Partners Electoral Reform and member working group of the Watching Your Vote Yaga. I want us to start from what we just heard in Abuja. Why do we always expect there's a problem somewhere?
Well, thank you for having me, by the way. And I'm happy that it's in Osun that it's happening. You know, the attention of everyone is here. But I think we need to put on new spectacles. We've won the spectacles of the past enough in terms of elections. We've had close to seven obstacle elections since after in the recent period, and there's a consensus that election is getting better. Yeah. Okay, the different processes, accreditation and voting, collation, it used to be the weakest link. But in these obstacle elections, we've not seen things go as badly as many people want us to think. I think we should be a little bit optimistic. We should also come to terms with the fact that the work that both the media, the civil society, INEC, and everybody is doing to clean up our elections is yielding dividends. We can't see results of what we're doing coming to fruition, and at every point in time we still think that. That's not to say that we some cautious optimism is what I am talking about. Mm-hmm. But truly, if you've moved around from the pre-election environment till now, the political climate in Osun is inspiring. It's something that we should talk about. We've seen political parties do their campaigns side by side without not a lot of fisticuffs the way we've seen. Yeah, we know about people defacing posters and all of those things. But anyone who was in Ekiti and you are now in Osun will know that you have a sense of calm. You have a sense of positivism. And more importantly, I was telling colleagues yesterday, I said there is something, if you drive around Osogbo, for instance, you will see that people obey traffic lights. I've been in cities, you know, I don't see that happen. I see the thing is saying 70, 80, and you see people, including Okada riders, waiting for the traffic light. It's something we should celebrate. We shouldn't just talk about what is not going well, you know. But for the election proper, we are interested in the punctuality index of the officials. How early did the polls open? And driving from Osogbo to Ife, East and Central that we went to, we saw that by 8 o'clock, officials were already setting up the place, and voting and accreditation and voting is taking place. I hope that it is what it is in most of the places, but I was excited and impressed with what I saw within Ife Central and East as at this morning.
Okay, so you have gone round. You say you are impressed with what is happening. Have you been receiving, information from members of your watch the vote?
Yes, the data center is open in Osogbo here. The reports are coming from the polling units. We have 561 observers, cut across 250 polling units, doing what we call parallel voter tabulation. And the untainted reports from these polling units are coming in. But it's too early to begin to give reports until we are able to get a complete bird-eye view of what it is across the state. Yeah.
Our reports are still coming in. I think it's time for us to join Adebola Brookslyn Sunday, who is in Ede South and North local government areas. They'll be telling us what is happening there right now.
Thank you, studio. We are here in Alajue 1, Ward 4, Unit 10 in Ede South local government area here in Osun State. And the voting strength here is 476. On the queue is Aziz Kudus, who is a first-time voter. Aziz, can you tell us how it feels to be a first-timer in this process?
I'm very happy for being the first time in the process. I'm the most very happy today because I've never been in the election to vote for the governor that I want. But I'm very happy here that I want to vote the candidate that I want in my mind, but nobody that's going to disturb me.
I have here with me 76 years old Tijani Raji Ola, who is one of the early voters.
In the olden time, when you accredit, you go home and sleep and come back. But this time, immediately you are accredited, you vote, and then you go and watch your vote. That is better improvement and the other improvement is the card reader. You are not allowed to use fake voters card or any other body's low voters card. Immediately you put your PVC in the machine, then it will show you, and then you turn print.
Here in Ajue 1, there was no provision for Braille ballot guide.
If the physical talent person come here, we will give that person this form to fill.
From Ajue 1, we are now in Olusokun Ward, Abere 1, Unit 006, with a voting strength of 504. No use of mobile phone here is indeed adhered to.
They say we should drop the phone because if we carry the phone go inside the place, we fit snap the phone, we fit take the phone, snap the ballot paper. So that is why.
After casting their ballots, Taye Akinpelu and his friend chose to listen to radio commentary.
For this place we are, no any problem here, everything is go easily. And the one I had inside the radio, I not even had any bad news since. So I enjoy NTA and all the press, what they are doing is good.
From here, we shall be proceeding to other polling units where we will be bringing you updates. It's back to you in the studio.
And Joshua is also standing by with his report from Osun North. Okay, we're still waiting for Joshua's report. Let me go to Grace. I also want you to react to the expectations of Nigerians. Why do we always have this funny feeling about, something maybe going wrong somewhere?
Shortly before we came on air, we're talking about it with Mr. Izenwago. I don't know, is it the way, Nigerians are wired or what? I don't know. But then, like he said, out of all the 7 off-cycle elections, it's been going great. From one, it gets better. From the other, it gets better. So I think it's about a perception and, like a mindset, a shift from, the mindset of it going wrong. Because it keeps getting better. And for people with disabilities, we're recording a mass turnout. Like, they're not even getting afraid to come out and vote anymore because there is no more sign of violence. And because of the priority voting, they are beginning to enjoy. You could see that there is more interest, for this, community of people to come out and vote. So I think moving forward and towards the 2019 general election, we just know that things are going to keep getting better. So our perception should shift. It's going to keep getting better. That's it.
And Grace, I think I agree with you that, you know, with persons with disabilities, stigmatization is gradually being a thing of the past. Thanks to you, kudos to people like you who have come frontally to tell us, no, this is how it should go.
Now it's about the rights. We're putting forward that it's a shift from charity. It's about the right of people with disabilities. And because they themselves are beginning to understand that it is their right. Right now we're recording beautiful turnout and mass turnout of people with disabilities coming to exercise their, their franchise, because they're beginning to understand that it's a thing of right. And INEC is, because they have understood that also, they're already working to address these barriers that have in time past limited the participation of people with disabilities in the electoral process. Now they are beginning to address these barriers. We are not there yet, but we have made beautiful steps in the right direction. We know that 2019 general election, we're going to record better turnout.
Thank you very much. I want to go back to Ezen while we are watching your vote. Just in Abuja, they were talking about the situation in Osun State, and they were saying it has moved away from, well, they were thinking there's really actually no, problem with people thinking that it's our turn to take the seat. For instance, talking about the Osun South, Osun West, Osun East, and Central. Do you think there are agitations that, well, it's our turn to take the seat now?
Well, by the way, Grace is doing fantastic work around disability issues, and part of the progress that we have seen is from the result of some of the work that they've done. You see, one of the challenges of our electoral process is we are not putting issues on the front burner. The things that diminishes us are the things that we play up. What is where you come from? How does that help anybody?
But do you think that we have such agitations here?
No, you see, I'm a process watcher. We are process watchers. We're interested in securing this process. If the process is right, the outcome will be one that a lot of people will be proud of. What is that? The choice of the people is what is important, right? So the conversation should be placed on ensuring that the people are able to make that choice, and that choice is not corrupted.
Yeah.
What do I mean by that? If they want Osun West, or they want Osun East, or they want, and Osun East is not the only Osun. Osun East people will not make a governor. Osun West people will not make a governor. You need every part of Osun to make a governor. So you need a conversation that...
Okay, thank you very much. You can see on the field we have Usman Aliu already, here. We'll come back to you. Usman Aliu, what is happening at your end there?
Sir, I'm in Okuku town. Would you tell us more about elections?
Well, the election here has been calm and very peaceful. We
Okeowo in Abuja, who will be speaking with our guest, Ezenwa. Femi, I'm sure you have some questions for Ezenwa here.
Yes, you're correct. I like the way Mr. Ezenwa started his conversation with you, and I do remember that having been part of this trend for years, what we have always concentrated on were on logistics. Well, at this time, a lot of times we would have been saying, no, ballot boxes are still expected on that. So in terms of logistics, we have moved a great step. So it is right to let Nigerians know where we are coming from and where we are. And when people talk about free, fair, and credible election, it's all about the process. But then it is also important for Mr. Ezenwa to tell us how we can then eventually agree that an election result, because that is the final stage, an election result
is to ensure also that the outcome is going to be acceptable to everyone. But one of the challenges that I have is that we're allowing politicians who are deeply invested and interested parties to define the narrative for us. They are the ones who define whether a process is going well or is not going well. But just look at the collation and the announcement of results and the new effort that INEC is making to improve that area. We have what you now call from E60E, which we have christened the People's Ballot. That from E60E is that you paste that poster, the poster of the result, in the polling unit. Polling unit results are pasted in a big poster in the polling unit. If political parties are serious, every result announced and pasted in the polling unit, their agents should be able to have it right there from the polling unit. And simple Excel, they are in a position to say, look, in this polling unit we scored this result, and they have a sense of what the results are. But the laziness, permit me to use that word, of our political class, they give them list of voters ahead of elections. They will not open it, they will not find out. They will paste the people who have been registered in the polling unit for 7 days for them to go and look at it. They will not go there. Okay? Results are pasted in polling units. They will not even take the grace of snapping and getting back to their own situation room and doing a simple arithmetic and analysis of these results. So INEC, we have pushed INEC to a point. Our collective effort in advocacy have pushed them to a point where they are opening up their processes, saying, look, we want results pasted. It is the INEC chairman who is singing that song, telling people, look, paste all the results in the polling unit, and telling observers, political parties to snap. We have not seen that in our former election. So this people's poster is increasing the integrity of the electoral process. What we are insisting on is that INEC officials who are working in elections must adhere to the instruction of INEC to paste those results, the big from E60E, in the polling unit. If they do that, they have done their own part. Now, when you come to the issue,
I think we are supposed to be going back to Okuku, where the Prince of Okuku, Prince Socio-economic, he has just voted and he has a few comments. Usman, over to you.
Thank you very much, Femi. We are together with former Governor of Osun State, Olagunsoye Oyinlola. Tell us the elections here. I know you have
Yes, the election exercise here so far is calm and very peaceful. We had a problem with one of the card readers. It was immediately replaced, and the exercise has continued very well.
So now, generally, what can you say is the difference that we are having this election with others?
Honestly speaking, if the exercise continues in this manner to the end, we want to believe that this will be one of the best administered electoral process so far. I pray it continues like this to the end.
What do you have to tell us, Nigerian as are we going to work out we have from Osun that the kind of identity that
Thank you very much. I just like the way he puts it. Let's hope everything goes on the way it has gone so far. And he says this would be one of the best administered, I hope you had that, elections in recent times. But please, I still go back to you in Osogbo, and I want to talk to Grace. Grace, you had Sunday's report where in a polling center there was not enough Braille papers ballot papers to go around, and one of the physically challenged persons could not vote. While I know that you have explained earlier on that the Braille papers could not go around, is there a way you can have an idea of the population of people who need it in a particular polling booth as to be able to distribute effectively?
Very much. The Braille ballot guide is designed in such a way that it serves more than one person at a polling unit. It's not a Braille ballot paper. It's a guide. And the guide is with the APO. And when a visually impaired person comes, he picks his ballot paper, the regular ballot paper everyone is using. And how do they use it? They bring the ballot paper and place it under the Braille ballot guide. So the guide is above the ballot paper. So they trace, with the Braille embosser, they trace the party of their choice and they thumbprint. There is a hole that is created on the Braille ballot guide. So when they thumbprint, it goes automatically to the ballot paper. So what they do is to just pull out their ballot paper, fold it, and go put it in the ballot. So one ballot guide serves more than 5. So in this case, INEC deployed to about 133 voting areas, and I think about 89 polling units. So we have more than enough Braille ballot guide to serve all the visually impaired voters in Osun. I think the challenge we had, where briefly someone reached out to me, is that they were not deployed. INEC didn't deploy to some of those PUs, and that is just the challenge. Because I got a few statistics here. I think it's in Odotin, there was no Braille ballot deployed to that place. But there was more than enough Braille ballot guide to serve everybody.
Thank you very much. Funke, I allow you to go back to your guests.
Point that I was making is that in terms of transparency, election transparency, we have pushed INEC to get to that point where they are opening up their process. Yeah. And you see, for every issue that you raise, you see a commission that is almost working to respond to it. Grace, you remember when we started the thing about PWDs, how, making access available and all of that. Yes. This is not a microwave thing that once you put it, it's a system.
It's a process.
So it's a process. We're going to get better. We may not be where we want to be, but we will not keep quiet. We will keep pushing. But what is important is to have a responsive institution that is willing to take corrections and deal with it. When we started the campaign around vote trading, you saw responses. Okay, don't take your phone into the voting cubicle. It's normal Nigerian thing will have been, okay, we are working at it. But you are seeing quick responses. They may not give you the results you need 100% immediately, but there is excitement that something is being done to assuage that. So for me, is to continue to push it out there. We are not where we are, but our advocacy will continue to be stronger, more strident, and even ferocious. Yeah. But we are happy to say, note when the things that we want done are done. Yeah. And then we begin to demand for more. Everybody who is speaking about Osun elections, and I've moved around quite a lot, people are happy. Yes. People are excited. Yeah. I just hope that government will deliver for them, that these sacrifices that they are making, this excitement will translate into good governance. That is the point. And going back to the question you asked about where somebody comes from, good governance has no tribal marks.
Exactly.
I like that. Good governance has no tribal marks. We have just one more report. Joshua, are you ready with your report?
Here we are in front of Olugo Mosque, Ward 2, Unit 2, Eden North. The total number of voters is 676. So far, accreditation and voting have started as early as 8:05. And here I have with me Mr. Nwamadi Chukwu Emeka, one of the voters expected to exercise the franchise. What can you say so far about the conduct of this election?
So far, it's been so good. Everywhere has been peaceful, and you can see large numbers of voters came out to vote. And as you can see, people are still being accredited, and we thank God for everything. Everywhere is peaceful, and we thank God for the security and everything.
Now we'll be moving to another unit. Back to the studio.
Well, what do you say about this large turnout we have here in Osun today?
see, democracy is in other parts of the country, democracy is gasping for breath. But in our country, in spite of all that we're going through, the people believe that election will change their lives.
Yeah.
And we must not do anything to remove that excitement. Majority of the people believe that if they cast their vote, it will change things for them. And that is coming in the way we're seeing it. But finally, we saw soldiers moving towards polling units as we were coming now. I think that is not right. They should be in the outer security architecture rather than going around. That could bring intimidation. We saw policemen frog jumping some people. We think that they should deal with our people, with respect. And
well, I think when our reports come, we'll be able to confirm all that. We say a very big thank you for being part of Osun Decide. Thank you for coming to the studios, Ezenwa.
Thank you.
As events unfold, we would like to hear from you. And Grace, it's been really good having you here. You have enlightened us on what is happening, and we're happy, we're quite emotional about the Braille that is being used here, and we just know it's already a success. It's been fun here from the Osun Decide studios in Osogbo. The discussions have been robust. Our guests have done so very well. We will be joining Femi Okewo in our Abuja studios very soon again. And not to forget that Kemi Akinwande will be coming up later to continue with discussions from the Osogbo studios here. For now, it's back to you, Femi, in Abuja.
Thank you very much, Funke. Now let's do give our final thoughts for what has happened for the first part of the day in Osun elections. And let's look at the observations that have been given to us. I start first with the officer, the CP Counterterrorism Department of the Force Headquarters. Again, you've said it before Ezenwa made his observation, where armed military personnel are expected to be. That goes, for there to be any violation, it goes to see how possibly some of your men imbibe the instructions that have been given to them.
Well, we are not claiming to be perfect, but we can assure you that we try, when we make such observation, we try to adjust and see how best we can do. Like I said earlier, the military is effectively deployed at the border areas of the surrounding states. And I am not sure, except I confirm that information of the military moving towards, depending on if there was an invitation or if there was any problem within the area. Like I told you, within a certain circumference of the voting areas or the polling booths, we have unarmed personnel. Then at a certain circumference too, we have the patrol units that is formed up of various departments with the military inclusive. So it could have been within the team of the patrol vehicle. But however, our men have been effectively instructed to make sure they adhere to instruction and directives.
Okay, Mr. Osazeuzi, former Governor Olagunsoyin Oyinlola said that there was a malfunction of one of the card readers and it was immediately replaced. What kind of backup do you have to be able to, in a place where it's unforeseen, for you to quickly replace a card reader?
Yes, as part of the planning process, we realized that this thing is a mechanical device and it can go wrong at any time. You pick up your ATM, sometimes it says it has dispensed money, but you don't get the money. Sometimes you pick up your phone, you call a number, as the person is probably close to you, but it doesn't get through. So yes, it's a technological device, and it's not perfect. In the realization of this, in the planning, we now took this into consideration. Look, for whatever reasons this thing may fail, for example, overnight they charge the batteries, but this morning I now noticed that a few of the battery cells were running low on some card readers. So things like that are taken care of. There are spares around, and there's a technical team going around every area to ensure that things are working well. And once there's a report that something's not working well, they bring a replacement or try to fix it.
And not too far away. They physically challenged, which Grace talked about. And how did you arrive at it, and how do you make sure that there are places where it covers.
Yes, kudos must go to civil society. I'm very pleased to say that we've moved from that position of attrition, which civil society grew from in the military era, to one of cooperation, constructive criticisms, dialogue, and obviously we're all set for the same goals. How do we improve the process? And if you have been on this beat for quite a while, and you know that most of these people who are even praising the system now were some of our most vitriolic critics over the years, and it's been a rewarding, mutually beneficial partnership. Inclusive Friends, for example, Access Nigeria, Grace Jerry has been in your studio all morning. They've worked very closely with us, and we're extremely grateful for that. It's a mutually beneficial thing. We do have a more inclusive electoral process, and it is with their support. Part of the things we did, for example, was conduct a survey. Okay. In the registration process now, we ensure that in the drawdown box, if you have a disability, it's disaggregated according to type of disability as well, so that we know when we provide assistive aids, where they should go or where you have higher concentrations of such. Because it will be so wasteful to print, let's say, this guide or ballot paper for the whole of the state when there are some areas you might not have any really physical need for it, basically. So with some of these surveys that we have done, we've now found out some of them are undertaken by civil society with the aid of our development partners. So this partnership has brought out the areas of concentration, and you now know where to deploy to. So there might be a polling unit where we don't have record of any visually impaired person. It might not be necessary. But even if somebody turns up and we miss that out, because surveys might not be 100% perfect, the person is still allowed, in accordance with the law, to bring another person of his choice to help him or her indicate what his choice is on the ballot. So this basically is in addition to magnifying glasses. We can't, unfortunately, the conflicting priorities, our budget is such that we cannot have for every polling unit. But at least we have gotten through the data we have gathered, we've gotten concentrations of areas where the things are needed. So we'll take such assistive aids to those areas.
Please, quickly, I just remembered that an observer was interviewed in Osogbo with his two hands caught, his wrists caught. If that were to happen to a voter, how would he vote?
I think the particular person, David Daniele of, I think it's CCD, is one of the accredited observers. One, he can be assisted in doing so, not by an official, but by a person of his own choice. But there's really provision, if he can, use his tools to indicate if need be.
Thank you very much. Professor Ajayi, let's have your final thoughts. Any observation from the first part of the day that we need to carry into the second part of the day?
Well, so far so good. At least it's the justification of the whole essence of election as the foundation of the democratic process. And what we are seeing in Osun so far, I think, also validate part of our initial position, right? That what is on ground is also a reflection of the sophistication of the political class over there. When I say political class, the entire citizen. We're talking about the high level of political education, mobilization, the information at their disposal, and that is why they are out, to cast their ballots. We just hope that the tempo will be sustained, particularly the peaceful atmosphere that we are witnessing. We also believe that the security agencies will carry their duties, lawfully to the end. So that if what we are seeing this morning, will help us to also predict what will happen later on in the day.
Thank you very much, our guests, starting from the last person who made this comment, a political scientist, Professor Rotimi Ajayi. Thank you for coming to this session. We also have Asukwo Amba, the Commissioner of Police, Counterterrorism Unit, Department of Operations, Force Headquarters. Thank you very much for your time. And the Director of Voter Education of INEC, Mr. Oluwole Osazi Uzi, for your time and for your insights.